I was. There we go. I was a Skype guy back in the day, but
I'm still a Skype guy.
yeah.
Even though it's crap, it's so terrible. But there's still, I like the audio quality. We only use it for audio. It's great
Mhm.
for dual syncing. By the way, I'm gonna do some beeps and a clap so you can do. If we have to dual sync, we'll be able to. Anderson makes fun of me for this. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Beep,
Okay.
beep, beep.
Am I supposed to do it at the same time?
Nope.
Okay.
Just on the waveform, you'll be able to see 3 distinct beeps and a clap on both of our.
I love
even your side
that.
will have it.
I
Yeah,
love that. Thank
and it
you.
does it perfectly
Actually,
for you.
no, I get it because I'm still very new at audio editing, film editing, and like even just video editing, not film editing. But
Oh, you haven't made many films, Mitch?
I have not made a single one.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I should be on the show.
Yeah,
Cool
no.
fingernails, by the way, for people who aren't watching, of course, because it's an audio show. Mitch has his nails painted, which I don't know if I'm supposed to mention, but it looks like it's
No, that's
periwinkle.
fine.
It's a
It is.
periwinkle.
It's blue, and it is as blue as it can get.
Oh,
But
it's more yeah.
I've been it's purpley blue, but I haven't even introduced the show yet. But I will have to cut this in later, I guess.
Oh, we just cut it out. It doesn't matter. But the only time I had my nails painted was at camp in the 1996, right before Independence Day came out. Everybody was talking about it. We're about to go see it. I let a girl paint my nails at camp. I was like, you know what? This is a new opportunity. You can just be a free man. You can do whatever you want. You want your nails painted? Let a chick paint your nails. Who cares? Doesn't mean anything about you. Never had it happen again, and I have no opposition to it. Just a weird thing. Like there was a moment in my life I was like, I'm a dude who gets his nails painted, and never happened again.
And I'm a custodian. I work with a lot of kids, and I love seeing them be free and do whatever they want to do and be who they want to be. And I've had several kids be like, "Oh, I like your nails," and they're met like little boys, like
a conversation that both you and Freddy Krueger have probably had.
Yes, that's great. I love it, and I love your burnt face. Oh no, my face hasn't been burnt. It's just my last name is burnt.
Kid.
I had acne. How dare you? Actually, I had chickenpox, and I do have like scarring. But thanks for bringing that up.
Everybody's got that weird scar above their left eyebrow too.
Yeah,
it's either from like forceps or like a weird thing that happens that everybody had happen. Like everybody gets their head smashed on like a corner, or it's from chickenpox.
And I have hair that won't grow under here because I cut myself shaving really bad the first time I tried shaving.
That's horrible.
So, anyways, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Film Vaulters. We are a Film Vault after show, side show, whatever you want to call it, where I will be interviewing people associated with the Film Vault or past, listeners and past producers, current producers, maybe. But yeah, so this is our second episode. I obviously did my first episode with Mrs. Florence Bremer. So you can find that wherever podcasts are found. And today, I'm very, very, very lucky to have our second guest be Mr. Giovanni himself, or Giovanni. How are you, Gio?
I'm great. First, I want to apologize. I think there's like 3 people in the Film Vault audience who just don't like me, and they have to hear me. I always feel bad for people who have to deal with that because there's some people on podcasts I can't stand. And then when they're on all the time, it like drives me insane. But for the rest of you, hey, how's it going? And for Mitch, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for being on. Do you podcast a lot?
Oh, see, that's people don't even know the whole history. It's so
okay.
Funny. I feel like there's every guy in his late 30s who has any tech background has an old podcast he did. That when you bring up podcasting, they're like, they chuckle themselves like, oh, you don't know my history in podcasting.
This is my 5th.
Usually they're wrong when they say that because it's just something nobody listened to. But I actually helped launch the Modern Comedy Podcast with the Adam Carolla Show. People don't know what I did, what I was involved in that. It's actually oddly involved with me and the Film Vault and a bunch of other stuff. And then from that, I had the Geo Podcast, which ran from 2010 till I think 2014, right about there. No, 2017 actually, because I got the job hosting Classic Loveline officially. This whole thing in 2013, and then when that show ended in 2016, and then when that ended, people were like, "I want more of this," so I just basically killed my own podcast, my own baby. I drowned it in a bathtub, and then I was like, "All right, I'll just start doing Classic Loveline in my feed. Here you guys go." So I just started doing that. And then my show, which used to be essentially clips of like old Loveline, and then an interview with somebody related to it. That's why I first met Anderson on episode 9. It's a whole long story. We can get into that later too. We'll extrapolate. We'll go to the EXE file and one zip
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. But I interviewed him, and the show was like a loose format. I would just find thematic clips, whatever it was, do an interview. It was a very bizarre thing. It was written up in a bunch of articles, Pod Thoughts by Colin Marshall. That's a huge deal. It was part of Maximum Fun. Really smart dude. He wrote this brilliant review of it. The release was described as surprising. Like this would be like weekly, monthly. Because I come up like 3 in a day sometimes, and not fun for like a month.
Wow.
And it was a really well received thing. It was actually the only thing I've ever done that people liked.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And that was my personal show. And then I have this other thing called Pod Gods I do still with a guy from the message board I met while I was where Film Vault actually also originates from.
Yeah.
And I've never met him in real life. I don't know what he actually looks like. I don't know his real name. We've been doing a podcast together for almost 11 years.
Holy
and
shit.
He's my closest friend, and I don't know anything about him. Except I know, I know his wife.
Yeah, he has a wife, and
and I know what industry he works in. But other than that,
wow,
we're never gonna meet.
No, I that's what I mean. Like, I live in Canada, and I would love to meet somebody.
He also lives in Canada.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. And I'd love to
BC
meet like
area,
you
vaguely.
and yeah, Anderson one day and Bryan, but will it ever happen? I don't know. I'd love to take a drive down to LA. And
I've still never met Anderson in person. We've been dodging each other for over a decade. Met Bryan
Okay.
several times. You can easily
okay.
meet both of them. I can arrange for you to meet both of them. That is quite possible. Florence can set it up. That is entirely in the cards for you. It's a $239 plane ticket. I'm sure we can raise the funds.
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna do it. And I mean, if they would let me, I'd love to be, like a little co-host, right, for the day, or be there. If Avery's not gonna be there, Wow, no, fuck, I can't produce. Never mind. So yeah, but I know
you can probably do it. It just shows you how to do it. Bryan let a guy produce as a charity winner on the Adam Carolla show of all things. With a segment.
Wow,
guy stepped in, did fine.
Yeah, that's good.
They can show you how to do it. You'd have fun.
It'll be fine.
Funny, you're drinking a Corona beer for people who can't see.
Mm-hmm.
That is a weird BC thing. The last time I had a Corona was in BC. It's a Canada thing for me. I don't know why. Why does Canada like Corona? I feel like you guys wouldn't. I was in a Benny's Bagels and they only had Corona beers.
Summer is such a big deal for us, and I know that sounds stupid because it is a big deal for everyone.
No, it's particular.
Yeah,
Pacific Northwest, it's a thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and I drink it because I'm gluten free, and it's the only one that doesn't really affect my stomach as much.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I don't know why it is such a big thing.
You wouldn't expect it. You'd be like, they drink beers in Canada? Yeah, they do.
Because you go down to Mexico,
you think they're like beer snobs. They're like, no, they won't drink kokanee or like some crap they send down here. But other than that, they're totally fine.
I will drink everything, like anything. But if I have more than a couple of some that are like, really wheat based, then I'm in the bathroom. So,
all right, well, that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So I have the TFV timeline up.
I want to get right into that. I had a random thought right before we started. I've never thought this before. Everyone should have thought this. Nobody's brought it up. It's kind of like it's Barbarian. There's one guy who hates when the Film Vault brings it up still, even though it doesn't come up that much. And they're not going to bring up any further, so don't complain. Nobody brought this up. And like the tape list that nobody had put on IMDb until Bryan told me to add it there. What did he do with the Suns?
Oh. Okay, so for anyone listening, what he's talking about is the 2022 horror movie Barbarian, which has been overtalked on the Film Vault. But
how dare you?
I really like it. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's probably a little low.
Regardless of how much it gets talked about, I just like when they dig in on a movie, even if it's a movie I don't particularly like.
Me too.
Sometimes
I love that.
They'll even shit on stuff I like. Like the only movie I ever had them watch was Last Action Hero, and they didn't get it. But you can't get it on the first viewing. It took me 7 over 30 years to actually like it. And there's a whole history with everybody saying it was a bomb, and I was a child, and like they forced this idea in my head. And I finally figured out what the movie is, but I can't make them watch it 7 times. So,
well, if you pay for them to rewatch a movie,
they won't do it. They won't do it. I've tried. I said, if I pay you guys to watch it 7 times, they're like, no, we won't do that.
Well, that's a really great question, and
yeah, in the movie Barbarian, there's a thing where there may be babies of some kind. That's
of some kind. And what did they do with the sons?
Yep, I'm not gonna tell you what they do with the daughters.
No, but what do they do with the sons? I assume death, but
Yeah, it's got to be, right? It's got to be
it's
ground
gotta
up and fed
be.
to the other ones. Yeah.
But wow, that makes that
And
movie
the other thing that
even
he brings up is
darker.
those catacombs. Was that a literal underground railroad for slaves to escape to Canada? Was it something even more sinister and more ancient? What? Because he didn't dig all that. It was connected to
See,
something that was
you
pre-dug.
don't. Okay, so that's where the movie it went right over my head. I was, I'm like, why does this guy have this in his basement and nobody knows about it? What's
If
going
you look
on
at the
here?
construction, it's hand dug until a certain point, and then everything's perfect. And there's like a
Right.
weird arch and like a
So
thing. It's like
maybe
what is over there?
he must have knew it was there,
Or
right?
stumbled upon it.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I'm
Wow.
gonna
I
do
don't.
this horrible plan, and I'm gonna need a place to do this. He's like, what's down here? Oh, well, I just
It.
happened to dig here, and there's this thing. Instead of telling the local government and finding this historical landmark and letting cave explorers come, I'm just gonna throw dead babies in here. It's probably a good idea.
Oh my God. Yeah. So anyone watch Barbarian? I think
Yeah,
any horror
still not
fan
spoil a
will
lot. You don't
enjoy
know
it.
what we're talking about. You
No,
won't
we don't
know.
know what we're talking about. No.
You'll get halfway through and you still won't know.
Yeah.
You're like,
Um.
what's this?
So do we want to go through this
Oh, I
the
do. I
the
really like to.
timeline?
Yeah, I've been
Okay.
building this timeline up before this interview
Okay. Oh,
because
thank you. Okay. That's
yeah, I
awesome.
figured that a lot of people don't know the whole history of the film vault. Bryan and Anderson don't actually fully know it. We've tried to talk about it on air several times.
Yeah.
Me and Anderson Bryan never talk off air. I could call them all the time. I don't ever. And
No.
as far as my emails go, I'll show you a couple examples, like the one with Phoenix Wright. It's
Hmm.
like a paragraph, and they kept saying how long it was. It's like, are you guys? How old are you? Are you like
They
12?
just like to over
I
exaggerate.
know it's really
I
short.
know.
I'll send you a copy. It's funny. They introduced them the idea of Phoenix Wright, which they also enjoyed, which made me very happy. But nobody knows this history of TFV, and every time me and Anderson and Bryan try to address it, we get so excited talking about other stuff, like when you talk to somebody you haven't talked to in a long time, you just
Yeah.
skip over to some other tangent, and it never
Well,
actually gets addressed.
when Brian was sick in the hospital and you and Anderson did your episode,
Patreon
like,
bonus episode of the Film
yeah,
Vault.
yeah, and so he was so ready to get off the phone because he had to go pick up Atticus.
Yep,
And I was like, it made me anxious because I just wanted to hear more of what you had to
I
say.
know, and
And
I was
then
living it.
yeah, and then you would go on another tangent and he's like, man, I love you, Gio, I gotta go. And you're like, okay, but and it made me so happy. It was a great episode.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
It's always
and
fun when they come out well when you're trying. Sometimes they don't. There
no.
was an episode. Miss Movies used to have a podcast for a minute, and she interviewed me. It was a
Oh,
really
okay.
weird vibe, and like her husband was listening in a corner. I think he was like playing Mortal Kombat. I think it was 9 at the time. It was just Mortal Kombat, and he played the character Stryker. It's weird. I remember this. I don't even know the guy, and I'd met her at the time. I knew her, but it just didn't have good flow. And then she couldn't think
Uh,
of like movie titles and stuff. She like emailed me a month later, like, "Is it okay if we don't air this?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." So I'm on the lost episodes of the Miss Movies podcast. It was so bad that she couldn't air.
does she still have the podcast? I don't
No,
think
no,
so.
long time ago.
Yeah, I didn't think
So
she
this is
did.
before she started working with the Schmoes, and I think before she left TFE. So
The
the
only
TFE
thing,
timeline isn't finished. I only have it up till 2012 so far. It doesn't have the departure of Miss Movies, which wasn't controversial. She just moved on to something else. It wasn't even a
no,
thing.
of course I don't know.
She
I
wasn't even like a
was
regular cast member. It was just weird. It was
no.
just kind of like, oh, she just helps out and does this.
Yeah,
And
I
then
was
when
there and
yeah, it doesn't have when Diana Vandekamp came in or Logan's departure or Avery
mhm,
starting, but I'm gonna add all that. And most listeners
mhm.
kind of know all that stuff, and it's not as eventful. It's just kind of the podcast is independent.
Yeah,
Producer left.
yeah,
Different Miss Movies came on. Different Miss Movies came on. Not a
yeah.
big deal.
I mean, the biggest things are the moves from the
Mhm.
orange couch to the well, where do they go next?
Well, let's start. Let's start. So
Let's
I guess the
start.
origins of the TFE timeline. We'll start
Hmm.
back in June of '99. Anderson starts working at Loveline. So he begun working with Pharrell, who's like a sports reporter,
Oh, I
radio
was thinking
personality.
like,
He talks
uh,
like this. He's got like a crazy voice.
I was thinking,
And
are you happy? Da-da-da?
not that one. No,
Okay,
that guy's great. This is a white guy. I'm presuming I've never actually seen him. Older. His name's
okay,
Scott Farrell. He's just a real burnt out guy. And David Letterman's a huge fan of his, oddly enough. That's what
okay.
Anderson revealed. It's like,
And
what? How's that
Corolla
happen?
was at Loveline when Anderson started.
Yep. In '99, Kroll had been there since, let's see, he started in October 1st, '95. Then they
Okay,
had Mike Dooley as the engineer. Mike was
okay.
moving on. He eventually went to the game show network, Price is Right. He
Oh,
was the engineer for the Price is Right for the longest time. I think he still is.
that's good money.
Lakers, he does everything. So
Wow.
Mike was this great engineer. Him and Adam hung out once and got really drunk and like left beers and alcohol outside on the porch, half drunk. Other than that, they had like
At
no
Loveline?
real. Yeah, well, after a show. Other than
Yeah.
that, they had like no connection. So they just kind of got along. He was a good engineer. He played drops. Anderson comes in and he's getting trained. And the first night of his show is Pennywise's return to Loveline. Pennywise returned, and the first time they were on, they vomited on Dr. Drew. One guy, the Fletcher, he's like 6'5", I think he was like 320 or something. He was some crazy huge man. Drew would always exaggerate and say he could palm your back, but picture a man with a hand large enough that Dr. Drew would say he could palm your back. That's how big this man is.
Wow.
And so it's come out years later that Ricky Rackman, the co-host at the time, this predates Adam, this is 1994, this is the first time they came on Loveline.
Okay.
Had prepped them and told them to come on and get drunk and mess with Drew and attack him. And this is Ricky's new story as of 2017. He's never revealed before. Before, it was just they got drunk, came on the show. Pennywise never said anybody told them to do it. Maybe Ricky's trying to grasp at some sort of extra connection to like events that happened. Who knows?
So
maybe
Pennywise,
he did tell them to go wild.
Who's Pennywise? I'm sorry, I got lost there.
Oh, you did break up there.
Oh, I just, who's Pennywise?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. Let's stop. Let's see what's going on. Is this Zoom?
Yeah. I don't know what's going on here. Shouldn't be anything. Can you hear me now?
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, it was breaking up. If we mark this time-wise, you can cut it out so it's not so choppy.
Yeah.
So so Pennywise come on in 94,
get
drunk, eat pizza the whole show. Oh, now
but I don't know who Pennywise is.
Oh, Pennywise is a band. They're a punk band out of California.
Okay, sorry. That's where you kind of lost me.
Oh, yes, it's not the clown.
Yeah,
your audio's break up a bit. I think the videos mess us up. You want to go audio only?
Yeah, we'll do audio only.
That'll save us some bandwidth.
Yeah. Usually this doesn't happen.
Although I do like looking at you in your background. You have the coolest Predator pop I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Conan,
I've got a great little.
That's Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, that's Conan as a Predator. Stop video. Okay, so
Conan O'Brien is a different kind of Predator.
I love Conan. Has he ever been accused of something like that?
No, not at all.
Okay.
The opposite.
Right. Yeah.
Adam actually hates him because Lisa Kuchel, I think was her name at the time. She's got married and changed it. She's a famous actor. She was on Dr. Katz, a couple other things. I think she has a bunch of different roles she's done. She's famous for having a very large chest and being very desired by all the men in the LA comedy community.
Oh.
And she was into Conan, and he basically said, "No, I'm too sad about my last breakup. I don't want to be with you." And everybody's like, "What?" And it's like all these guys with the LA comedy community from the early 90s are mad at him because the one they all had a crush on, he was like, "No thanks."
Well, that's a really dumb reason, but I mean.
Well, then also Adam was on Conan twice, and there's a whole thing where he got soft banned from the show because the second booking he called the audience a bunch of lesbians because they didn't react well to one of his jokes. And then Conan did his classic push away from the desk move as opposed to supporting him. And it does not play well. As Adam's biggest fan, it is a moment where like, ew, no wonder he didn't want him back. But then they try to lie and say they didn't book teams when Jimmy was supposed to be on after 9/11, and there were only people in New York. And he's like, well, actually that worked, but I was on Conan once before with Dr. Drew before I was on Solo, so you just didn't like my last appearance, so you don't want to tell me.
Yeah. I think Adam has kind of the celebrity world has kind of distanced themselves from.
Oh yeah,
Adam.
I mean, it's inadvertent to a series of events like his tweeting and stuff. It's so late in the game where he should have been tweeting like the way he is now or was 2 years ago, back in 2010 when James Gunn, Chris Hardwick, all these other guys were. See, back then you could have these crazy outlandish tweets, whether they're serious or jokes, and they weren't going to do anything. But then once you get into it at this stage, he stepped in. He's on stage 1 of being on Twitter, and everybody else is on stage 12.
Yeah,
and it's not even it's more of just like, oh, you're like, it's pathetic, but not in a mean way.
Yeah, it's just kind of. It's kind of him just trying to get attention.
It's not even that. It's more of like he's like tweeting when he's angry or tweeting at night when he's a report or reacting to something and not explain the context. It doesn't help, and he knows it doesn't help when he talks about it online. And that's a whole other thing. Oh man, I have so much. I love the man so much, and I wish I could help with so many more things. But back to Pennywise, they're on Loveline. Fletcher is apparently instructed to drink tequila and eat pizza, whatever. We only have a small clip of this. He shoves his hand down his throat, makes himself vomit all over Dr. Drew. At the time, Adam had just started doing stuff on the Kevin and Bean morning show on the same station. He built lockers for them to put their stuff. and for all the radio personnel. So Dr. Drew climbs up on these like foot lockers as Fletcher's vomiting on him, and he starts punching him in the face. So Fletcher's vomiting on him, holding him against the wall, and Dr. Drew's full on decking him. And the other band members have been band members with Fletcher for years. Their own band member eventually would go, I think, blow his brains out. So like these are hardcore dudes where one's gonna blow his brains out with a shotgun after this for unrelated reasons. And they said they couldn't believe that somebody would ever punch Fletcher, let alone Dr. Drew. They've never seen anybody fight back against him.
And do we know what started the fight?
Nothing. I guess Ricky had told them to have something crazy happen on the show, and Fletcher was just drinking tequila nonstop, eating pizza, and just.
Jesus.
So we don't know the whole origins of that. Anyways, after all these years banned, they're finally coming back to promote their second album. So they have Straight Ahead and they have Full Circle. Straight Ahead is a second album. It's a masterpiece. Has the song Alien. It was a big hit on radio and has had a video that played on Much Music. It also played on the box channels. It got no MTV play because they were a punk band.
Yeah.
Really cool song. Great. They're coming on. It's going to be great. Anderson's First Night. So Fletcher gets drunk again. This time he says he has a grenade. He's taking them all hostage. The police show up. It's madness. Decades later, or over a decade later, we got the video from engineer Mike, the first engineer, or the one that was there with training Anderson. So online, you can watch the video of the police showing up and between commercials, Adam begging Fletcher to let them go. Fletcher saying, no, he's going to take them to Poo Poo City this time, and he's going to blow them all up with a grenade. Eventually,
Did he have a grenade?
No, but he was arrested. The SWAT team came. It was madness. And Adam is just sitting the whole time. He's like, he grabs one of their beers. He just starts drinking it. He's like, well, I'm leaving at midnight no matter what. So I don't care what you say is going to happen.
This is shock jock stuff. I love it. They
really
Adam's got their name.
Adam's like a boxer, so he wasn't bragging. Like he would have just punched him and knocked him unconscious.
Adam Carolla was a boxer?
Oh yeah, he trained boxing. Yeah, he's an expert boxer. He's got perfect timing and it was great. There's a great story where Denzel Washington training for Hurricane. They have the same boxing trainer, guy Terry, and Terry loves Adam because Adam has unreal balance. Like one day Terry's like, "How can you balance like that?" He's like a black man in his 30s or 40s, younger than Adam, and he goes, "Let me try something." He goes, "Stand on this medicine ball." So he starts like having Adam standing on smaller and smaller, more difficult balls to stand on while he's throwing balls at him. Like stand on this yoga ball. I'm gonna throw a medicine ball. You see if you can catch it, and they just keep seeing what you can do. And so one day Denzel's like, "Come on, Terry, tell me, at all the actors, who's the best? Who's the best boxer?" He's like, "Adam Carolla, straight up. Better than." He's like, not even just for an actor. He's like, just the best boxer. He's great.
Would never have that idea. I would never have had an idea.
His hands are destroyed from holding focus pads. He has sores and wounds all over it. Drew's drained them live on air with Anderson watching, only to infect them and make them worse. He has all kinds of problems from it.
Wow.
Yeah. Partly how he kind of got in the industry, but not really. It's kind of just part of the whole thing. He was going to train Jimmy Kimmel to fight the maintenance man on the morning show. And he actually wanted to train the maintenance man because he thought he'd have a better odds. He'd been on the station longer and he got saddled with Kimmel. That led to them becoming friends and everything else. And Loveline's completely separate than that. But anyway, so Anderson's First Night on Loveline, the worst it could possibly be. Trial by fire. I mean, almost literally, cops with their guns on their hip, and it's crazy. The Fletcher smashed his own security guard who was supposed to help him into the door and like try to break his head open. It's all on video. You can watch all this. It's crazy.
Wow. So, and do you think and I don't know how much of this Anderson would care about, but he's pretty open about his drug use. Was he doing drugs at this stage? And a lot
he was
of
probably on his best behavior that night, but of course he was. Yeah, this is the area. This is when he was like sleeping on people's couches.
Yeah,
trying to crash at the station.
So he probably was like, "Wow, this place is for me."
Yeah, he's like these guys know how to party.
Yeah, exactly. I can handle this this kind of vibe. So that's interesting.
Oh, Mike, you didn't say you guys were cool.
Yeah. So Mike trained him, and then Mike left to go work as.
Game Show Network, then eventually Price is Right. Yeah, basically everything. He was also working with Tom Leykis at the time, who was a local broadcaster. His whole thing was don't spend more than $40 on a date. He's a Zoftig, short man, very unattractive, red-faced all the time. Part of why he's so angry at women, I assume. And his whole thing was just about dump that bitch. And he was very popular.
Yeah,
Los Angeles.
I've heard that.
Los Angeles and Seattle, play on drive time all the time. It was a great indicator if you were in somebody's car who's a bad person.
So, and then Anderson has a blissful 2 years.
Yep, and then roughly right on this when Bryan comes in. So Bryan gets hired at KROQ, the mother station, to do screen calls. He really wanted to be on Loveline. I think it took less than a year, roughly. So I think he came on there about 2001. And And then by 2002, we have the exact dates. We're going to fill this out.
Yeah.
Bryan was on Loveline.
Yeah.
And Loveline wasn't recorded at the mother station. It was recorded about 10 minutes away at this place called Westwood One. There's a whole contract rights issue. That's another thing that comes into play. But so he finally got to leave the downtown building and go to this little crappy ski chalet, as they called it, and screen phone calls in the same room as Anderson, across from Adam and Drew.
And okay, so he was screening calls there, and Anderson was the mixer, producer, board.
The engineer, yeah. Engineer.
Okay. So then it's going well. February 2003 is when the real beat starts.
Yeah, so what happened is, I guess it was about a year of Bryan, excited puppy, and Anderson, the mean, angry dog. Yeah, shut up. Having this weird relationship at Loveline. Anderson, like a drugged out thug, living on the streets. Bryan, this sweet boy who doesn't understand how the world works, trying to do his King of the Hill impression for Pamela Adlon, who's being kind, even though it's midnight and she doesn't want to hear his King of the Hill impression. Anyway, so he finally convinces Anderson, let's do a show together, because Bryan has always been more eager. He definitely wants to be on air talent. It's just a thing he's had.
Yeah.
Anderson, I think he always did.
He's good at it.
Yeah, they both are. But I think Anderson has the same thing he has with his filmmaking, where he self-sabotages and he won't believe himself. Where like he's writing a screenplay at Loveline, and the dude from It's Always Sunny is like, "You write screenplays, Anderson? Let me take a look." Anderson's like, "No, it's not for you." But like in reality, he probably would have liked to show it to him. That's what he says nowadays, says he should have, and he was self-sabotage. So whatever Bryan's able to strike, whatever chord, he's able to convince Anderson, let's record a show. February 2003, they sit down in a studio, they make Real Beat. They record it to a CD. Which still exists and still plays. And they played this recording in the Patreon feed, I believe.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes. And so essentially, this month right now is 20 years?
20 years of the Film Vault.
Yeah, this month is 20 years of the Film Vault.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't called that in the first recording, but it's them talking about movies. It's the same show.
It's the same. Exactly. Wow.
And they still talk about Real Beat to this day. What a dumb title it is.
That is, I'm going to put that in the description. This month is Film Vault month. Oh, that's
And they actually wrote February 2003 on the disc, too. So it's not even a thing where you can go, maybe it's 2004. No, you guys wrote that on the disc.
Yeah, okay, I wish we knew the exact day.
We could actually probably figure that out.
Yeah.
Based on what they say in the recording, it'll reveal who the guest on Loveline was. It'll reveal what day it is.
And do you have these CDs and these recordings?
Real Beat, Anderson transferred, posted the picture. I have the recording. It's on Patreon. Yeah, I archive everything.
Okay, cool. So February 2003. So they're doing this. This is a separate show, but at the Loveline studio.
They're doing like a test pilot. Like, do we have chemistry? Can this be a thing?
Yeah. And
then they don't do anything else with it.
And this is the Orange Couch, right?
No, this is just Loveline at Westwood One. This is before Kroll even has a podcast. This is like podcast didn't even really exist yet. So RSS technology was added to podcasting was essentially added to RSS technology, like to add an MP3 enclosure. And that's why Adam Curry gets credit for inventing podcasting. He didn't invent RSS. He just told the guy that did it, goes, "Hey, what if you put a thing in there so I can put like an MP3 file?" And meanwhile, all of us Loveline fans were already exchanging MP3s across the internet. It was actually the first thing that was exchanged on Napster. Yeah. It was music and Loveline, not Howard Stern, not any other show, Loveline. Wow. And all the early podcasts used the exact same encoding standards of Loveline that fans used. And they weren't the lowest settings. They were specific settings, 64, 44. I hate it. I hate those guys. And so all these podcasts that they started using these settings. So everybody knows where it actually came from. But the RSS feed part, the part where it automatically shows up on your computer and then your device, that's Adam Curry telling a guy who actually invented something, "Hey, what if you put that there?" That somebody eventually in the community would have had added anyway. But, people who don't actually do anything, like the Billy Mitchells of the world, have to stick to something they did that they didn't actually do.
I would have to look up who Billy Mitchell is.
King of Kong.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, the big faker.
Yeah. He's
getting busted all the time now. He's in the news. They're busting him and everything. They've caught him in every lie.
And we love the documentary so much. And now it's like, should I even go back and watch it? Like, I don't know.
Well, no, the hero's good. The bad guy, Billy Mitchell, the one that they thought was a liar, that was a cheater, and they couldn't prove it. The history has now proven it because of the documentary. So the documentary has made Steve even more of a hero. and made everybody else more pathetic, including my favorite guy, the guy that shows up in the brand new shirt. I'm so that guy. He didn't wash it or iron it or wear it first. And they go, "Is that new shirt?" He's like, No, it's not. But you can see it just came out of the packaging, dude.
You can see
I think it's all those needles in it.
Yeah. The people are pulling out yeah, that's great.
Essentially that's how podcasting started. And then like 2004, podcasts were starting to become a thing because there's iPods and stuff. And there was actually podcasts for Battlestar Galactica, the show. They would record podcasts instead of commentaries. And then when the DVD set came out, they put them all on the DVD sets. And that was the first place I actually saw the word podcast. I'm like, I want commentaries. What are these podcasts? I want like some like mini-sode thing where you record 5 minutes. I want you to watch the whole episode. And that's exactly what it was, but they were calling them podcasts because they were trying to use this new format. It was very upsetting to me at the time. But anyway, so we'll go ahead. They don't do anything real beat. And then we're in 2005. Bryan's fired from Loveline over some bullshit. He had a blog he was doing on the Loveline Companion Forum. A mixture of hardcore fans who were normal, a lot of crazy people asking for really weird stuff all the time, and like having fits, going crazy on Adam and Drew. Basically a place that Adam and Drew tried to be a part of, but because it was so unpoliced and unmoderated, they had to leave very shortly after. And it became kind of just like a crazy place.
So the blog is what got him fired because it was just a shit show?
It was just an honest blog. I can give you the entry. It's nothing. It was like,
Mhm.
Adam and Drew said we're getting too many of these kind of calls, asked for these other kind. Somebody saw that, told Drew's wife, got back to Drew, and then somehow Bryan got fired. It got blamed on Drew. We're still not sure if Drew wanted him fired or did anything, or even knows what actually happened. But Drew was used as a cudgel to fire Bryan.
But who was in power because wasn't Adam in power of Loveline and
Adam and Drew technically were the hosts, but nobody respected them. So that's the whole thing is Anderson, like, you're not my boss, dude. You don't pay my checks. Even though now Anderson says, he actually was my boss and should have been more respectful. But so Adam just didn't care. He just leave. And then, but Drew has other people around him who do care. Sometimes his agents, sometimes other people, and they do step in. And that's what happened.
Okay.
So Bryan was fired over something he didn't do. There's nothing wrong with what he did, saying that they didn't want these kind of calls. He wasn't being harsh or shitty or anything. Adam takes note that Bryan was fired. It was shitty. Adam's also being screwed over at this time. It's 2005. Instead of getting the same contract offer they've been getting the entire time, because before Adam started, Loveline was not syndicated. Drew did it for free for years, since 1983, the year I was born. He wasn't actually even paid, I think, until 93, when poor man, the host at the time, tried to do a stunt where he went to Kevin or Bean's house in the middle of the night with a bunch of audience members, which resulted in him being fired. And their guest of that night, Ricky Rackman, producer Ann of Loveline, said, "Can you just stick around and be the host now?" And he became the co-host. Wow. And that's right around when they started doing it. The 93, they started doing 5 nights a week. Drew started getting a check. It wasn't much of a public service anymore, but it was a small check.
So that was
when Adam came on, they syndicated, and they instantly started getting $1 million paychecks.
Wow.
Favored nations. It was 995,000 or something. And they got the exact same amount every single year because of Adam. And Adam never asked for more. The final year, they go, Adam, you're going to get 200 grand. Drew, you get 995. Turns out they wanted Adam to go. The last 2 years, he was dominating the show in 04 and 05. But 05 hadn't happened yet. This was the beginning of 05. So they were just hedging their bets. And they did admit they wanted a younger Hispanic male to take over the show who was hilarious and would bring them a whole new audience, which they never actually found.
No. I mean,
Mike Catherwood's close, I guess, technically, but it wasn't what they were looking for. And there was another couple of white guys in between. They had a bunch of guest hosts. Bert Kreischer came on there, told the Machine story for the first time. It led to him telling it on stage. The whole thing. But so Adam was screwed over that year. He's leaving Loveline. It's his last year because he tells Drew, "Hey, don't sign the contract. Don't sign the contract. We'll go on this together. We'll make him fix it." Drew's wife, agent, everybody pressures him. He signs it. Adam and Drew have since mended fences. Adam doesn't hold grudges. He understands Drew's nature. Drew accepts him saying this out loud.
Yeah.
And then so Adam left, and he got 2 TV shows. One was the Adam Carolla Project. It was a construction show where he's going to remodel his dad's old house for his dad, who can then sell it and get all the money. And then the other one was Too Late with Adam Carolla. I think this was right around it's right before the Colbert Show, the Colbert Report, or it's right before it, and it became after his show. I can't remember the exact timing. He might predate the Colbert Report. I think he was in that time slot, and when his show was canceled, then Colbert started, I think. Or he was following Colbert. But he was right after the Daily Show. He was right in that time slot on the Comedy Central.
Oh, well, that's a good slot.
It was 2005, the fall. Interview format, 20-plus minutes. Funny little bits. Adam talks to 1780s guy. It's basically him and Ben Franklin walking down the street, and it goes, Adam explains something crazy, and then 17 days ago, what do you mean they, blah blah blah, and then Adam would just sit there and he'd like hunch his shoulder and goes, I guess, I don't know. And it's just like some modern thing that doesn't make sense to anybody. And this is a funny little bit. Then there was being an interview with a celebrity for most of the episode. Bryan ended up working there because Adam was like, it was shitty how you got fired. I like your moxie. And it was funny. In the tapes that Anderson eventually gave me, that when the Loveline shut down, we're skipping ahead, of course, there was a floppy diskette, black, unlabeled, on this floppy disk, which I had to buy a USB floppy drive to open.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Bald Bryan's 2005 resume. He just left it at the studio.
That's
so
amazing.
Getting fired, he wrote his resume that night and just left it.
So all while this is happening, Bryan being fired and then being taken on by Adam Carolla on the Too Late Show, Real Beat is still happening.
No,
right?
It hasn't. Only the one episode. They taped the one episode and then nothing.
Oh, so then there was one episode in 2003, and then nothing happened for a few years.
Nothing at all. And so then 2006 happens. Adam's Too Late ends. They got one run. They didn't do another order. The Adam Carolla project could have got another season, but the executive's wife didn't like something about the show, so they buried it and didn't promote it. I guess that was the rumor why the show didn't, because it was a huge hit. Everybody loved Too Late.
The Too Late Show?
It's called, no, I'm sorry. I confused it. Too Late's the Comedy Central one. That's the one Bryan worked on. The Adam Carolla project is the one that the wife, his wife hated. And that's the one that gets the crazy good reviews and people still talk about.
Really?
It's considered like one of the best home improvement shows ever done.
I have heard of it, but in the zeitgeist at some point. I mean, I was 16 at this time, so.
Yep. And also it's a U.S. thing, but it was on TLC. And then in 2006.
My mom was obsessed with TLC, so
most moms
watched
are.
A lot of stuff. Yeah.
I had a buddy who had a living girlfriend at this time. So this was it was a couple years later, actually. It was a couple years prior to this, and she didn't want him watching any TV. He was still a teenager back then, and so she put a towel over his TV with like heavy candles and stuff on top of it, and then she would unfurl the towel and turn on only the channels he was allowed to watch, which were TLC. And she also used the V chip to block them, but she didn't trust it. So there was like a year my buddy only watched TLC and Animal Planet. Like, what is wrong with you?
I mean, they're fun to watch, like, in short bursts, but
but not as your only content, like a prisoner,
exactly.
because you have a weird teenage girlfriend who's underage living with you, even though you're a teenager, your mom's cool with it, and I'm not cool with it as your friend. So that was what happened. So 2006, Bryan is hired as the phone screener. So this is kind of this is kind of a demotion almost back to, instead of being, somebody who's helping on the production of a TV show, he's now screening calls again on Adam Carolla's brand new morning show that they've been working towards on KLSX, a competing station of KROQ. He's taking over for Howard Stern in the mornings, who's gone to Sirius.
Yeah.
Across the U.S., they put David Lee Roth on the East Coast, who lasted a few weeks and burned out. Mancow, who was already doing a radio show in Chicago, and he just never caught on. I think he's like a crazy religious guy now. It's kind of like a mini Alex Jones type, I guess, but not as bad. And then there was Adam on the West Coast, and Adam had like 14 markets. He was number one in like Seattle and Vegas, which he would say the dumbest city and the smartest city.
Was Adam doing this and Too Late, or was that done?
Too Late wrapped up. So Too Late was fall, and it was over by December, and Bryan was fired.
Okay.
Adam Carolla project was fall, it was over, and then they did like test shows all December, and they started in January, and he was just doing the morning show.
Okay.
And so the morning show's going good. Bryan's doing calls. I didn't call in, so I don't know. I was listening to the show. I remember here's Loveline fan possible. I'm at some weird place I don't want to be with people I want to be. And then it's like the middle of the night. I'm like, I'm leaving. I don't want to be here anymore. You guys are weird. And so I'm driving home in my Nissan 240SX with the timing chain about to snap. My job outsourced, no unemployment, no money. Driving home from the mountains because I gave somebody a ride home. Unsure if my timing chain is going to snap in the middle of nowhere, where I could actually be mauled by wildlife, like on this side road, like next to I-90. And it's right as the morning show is starting, and it comes on. It's not even fully light out yet, and I hear Dave Damashek, who's like this very Pittsburgh voice. He's not Adam Carolla, and I never once in my mind thought that anybody else would be on the show besides Adam. And of course, there's a news girl and there's Dave, and none of these voices are Drew. And I wanted Anderson to carry over and be the engineer for the show, but that was never going to happen. And we found out years later, Jimmy Kimmel ordered Anderson cannot come over to the show because Adam hates him so much. And this was like a running thing where everyone on Adam's behalf would say, Anderson needs to stay away because Adam can't stand the guy. Meanwhile, they had like 3 or 4 interactions on air that were not even hostile, just like Just Anderson just pushed the buttons. Like that's the worst it got.
I've heard them talk a lot about it.
Yeah, that's the worst it got. Like it's not even like I'll fire you, I hate you. It was like just push the buttons. Meanwhile, Stryker, the guy that got the job after Adam.
Oh yeah.
Because Anderson was playing drops of you're a lesbian, Dr. Drew, while they were talking to Lindsay Lohan, who was living with Samantha Ronson at the time, he ran in the back room, started punching Anderson and smashing his board. And he kept the job after that. That wasn't even an issue because nobody cares about it.
It's funny and shocking.
No, that wasn't even a bit. That was a bit. He didn't want Anderson to ruin his connection to Lindsay Lohan because he was using her as like a proxy celebrity thing, the narcissistic glow, trying to work your way into different like communities. That's what he does as a person. It's sociopathic, but I'm not really even judging it because a lot of people in the industry do that. But he was mad because Anderson might be jeopardizing Lindsay Lohan, his meal ticket, unaware that Lindsay Lohan was nosediving her own career. That wouldn't matter anyway.
We
care if you offend her, saying she's a lesbian, the thing that she actually is. I mean, it's ridiculous. But so there's no actual thing, but everyone does this stupid myth of Anderson, the bad guy. Meanwhile, at worst, Anderson was the angry punk teenage son of Loveline that Adam and Drew inherited. Like it's like they had a marriage, now they have this son around who's kind of a dick, but kind of
Anderson
funny.
Was the rebel.
And also Adam stood up for Anderson. Every time he was told he couldn't do drops anymore, Adam would tell him he can and got him his drops ability back. One time Anderson actually sounds like he's gonna cry. He's like cry voice. And Adam's like, don't worry about it, Anderson. We'll get your drops back. You'll be playing them again, blah, blah, blah. And then Anderson's like, thanks guys. I really appreciate you supporting me.
So this is now I have a question that I should have asked earlier. I'm getting used to interviewing people, so excuse me.
Good.
But so back at Bryan is fired from Loveline. The Too Late Show. Bryan is hired. What was Anderson doing during all of this?
Still at Loveline. So Anderson's a company man like myself. Right. I've had the same job 20 years. Anderson stayed with Loveline until 2016 when the show ended.
Gotcha. Thank you. I was just kind of trying to place that.
And throughout 2006, he was the de facto co-host of Loveline. It's not called that, but us hardcore fans know. It's basically the Drew and Anderson year with Anderson in a different room. It's one of the coolest dynamics of Loveline that exists, with like the cool celebrity guests coming in to try out. Daniel Tosh. Anderson brought Daniel Tosh in for 3 shows.
Love him.
And he's trying out to be the host. And the executives were like, nah, he's just not good enough.
Oh, losers. He's amazing.
He brought in It's Always Sunny guys. Anderson was great. Anderson is great. And so he's doing that. And then Bryan's a phone screener on the morning show. And Mike Lynch, who is a writer who Adam knows from working at Jimmy Kimmel Live, who he was like, I like you. You're a smart kid. Come with me. I like how you work. And so he'd always be assigned to Adam to type stuff for him, basically, much like Adam De La Pena was at the Man Show, the guy that did I'm with Busey and Minority Team and much other things, and Code Monkeys. So Mike Lynch was basically the guy when Jimmy Kimmel started his night show, late night show. He brought Adam over as a writer, and Adam would hang out and like show up in the daytime, have fun, and still do Loveline. And he'd been doing that for a couple of years. And then he bailed out because they didn't need him anymore. And he took Mike Lynch with him to the morning show. And Mike Lynch was the drop sound effects guy. Basically, he was the engineer Anderson of the show. He was good. He was fine. But he's going to go on a honeymoon. So he's like, I got a honeymoon. I got to go, Ace Man. It's like, all right, well, we'll have Bryan fill in on your job while you're on your honeymoon.
Oh.
Bryan had all
the
years of Anderson. Bryan came in like a machine. Everyone lost their shit uncontrollably every episode that week, to the point where Mike Lynch came back like, sorry, dude, Bryan's got your job now. You're still a writer, pay more money, whatever, but Bryan's the drops guy now.
Wow.
Everybody loved him. He's cool as shit. They'd go like do live shows at the Playboy Mansion. He'd dress up in his football player outfit and stuff. He was always cool pictures of him. Teresa Strasser became the full-time news girl. She was the second one. The first one flamed out. It was Rachel Perry, your own Rachel Perry from Canada for Much Music.
So
remember her? Do you remember Rachel Perry?
If you give me a second.
Much Music VJ.
If I see a picture of her, which I'm looking up right now,
she moved to VH1, and then she was the first news girl on the Gorilla show.
Yes, I had a crush on her. I just didn't know who she was. She's Canadian.
She flamed out. And left the show. Fell asleep while she was broadcasting from New York's Fashion Week on air.
Hey, you guys have a president that falls asleep, so
I'm fine with that. But she was supposed to be on a morning show. I know asleep too.
Sorry. So, Bryan, 2006, Bryan is hired at the KLSX ACS phone.
KLSX ACS. Yeah, it's a lot of letters.
Yeah, it's a lot of letters. And then so Bryan takes over the sound effects guy. where's Anderson in this? Why is he not the sound effects guy? Because he's the sound effects guy over at Loveline.
He was banned
but
from ever doing anything
using...
further with Adam and radio because Jimmy Kimmel
Okay.
made it an edict, because Jimmy Kimmel was under the impression that Adam hated him when he didn't, and Jimmy didn't hate him either. Jimmy liked him. So it was just this thing, like everyone's like, oh, you can't have Anderson. There's like, well, who told you that? Who did this?
Loveline, sorry. Loveline, at this point, Carolla was gone then.
Yep.
So Anderson was allowed to be a part of that and do the drops and stuff. And then
Adam would have let him be a part of it. He was just, there was no Adam, so there was more air to fill, even more than there was. So it was the same show like when Adam was there, minus Adam. It was kind of like the episodes when Adam didn't show up, which are very few, but they were.
So the sound effects and drops that Bryan is using are from Anderson's board.
Like, he took a bunch from
Okay, I thought,
but that mostly it's not. He's mostly doing new stuff. There were so many great drops. A lot of them are lost to time. Okay. In 2007, they had a cast change, which is a thing that happens a lot on the show. Mm-hmm. And Dave Damashek, the sports guy, was gone. They brought in Danny Bonaducci, who was going to host a competing morning show. Instead of letting him host the show, they told Adam he had no choice of bringing him in. He kind of ruined 2007. He talked a lot. His voice is bad. There's lots of noise. Mm-hmm. Bryan became a superstar because he would mock Danny on air with Danny's own drops. And it was so brutal. It was the funniest you ever heard in your entire life. Like, you can't believe how mean Bryan is. Like, to the point I thought Danny wanted to hit Bryan. And then at the end of the year, when Adam did a sick out to get rid of Danny Bonaducci, he just didn't come to work for a week, including making Bryan host a show with Dana Gould and Teresa and Danny at a live event where Adam wasn't at his own show for the end of the year. And he wouldn't tell anybody what he was doing. At the end of the year, Danny Bonaducci hired some intern or somebody at the station who hated them, and they deleted all of Bryan's drops.
Wow.
I was so sad by this. I was living in Hawaii at the time. I was miserable. I didn't have a job. I moved to Hawaii to get my job back. They wouldn't let me work there because it was a haole, which means foreigner, but they only use it for white people. Totally illegal, but nobody cares. Living off credit cards, got nothing, sleeping on the floor.
Wait, you're a foreigner? I got to end the interview.
When I was in Hawaii. Yeah, when you go from a one state to Hawaii, they use the term haole if you have white skin. It's supposed to mean foreigner, like you're a foreigner to Hawaii, but it's really just a way to say something kind of shitty about white.
I would love to live in Hawaii. Oh my God.
I thought I would too. If you're poor, it's brutal. I mean, if you want,
well,
at the
time,
time, in 2007, in 07, if you wanted a gallon of organic milk, it was $22.
What?
Yeah, it was cheaper to drink gas. And if you want regular milk, 12, 13.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
that's
so
like,
it was pricey.
That's like here if you went like way up north because they have to deliver.
That's exactly why. That's a lot of the reason, yeah. So some of the stuff they just don't have there that they have to bring over on ships, and that's why it's going to be that way. It sucks. It sucked for me. I wasn't experienced with that kind of level of racism and not having any agency. Like, I was chased out of the Great Clips that said locals only. I was living there for over a year, but they didn't want me there. It was a bad experience. I wasn't happy. So I was living there at the time, and I was miserable. And I was like, you know what I could do? I have this shitty HP laptop. I'll go back through every single episode, because they were making a podcast of the morning show at the time, and they were releasing it on iTunes. It was getting 40,000 average downloads per day. So there's a lot of people listening online. And they wouldn't tell Adam or the crew this. They just say, you have this many streaming minutes. They wouldn't use the word podcast. It drove me nuts. It's like, yeah, the guys told me we'd stream for this many minutes today. I'm like,
and were you seeing other podcasts at this time?
Yeah, they're everywhere. So podcasts on iTunes were starting to blow up everywhere. So mostly they're independent. There was Jimmy Pardo's Never Not Funny, which started right around Adam's podcast. He always says he's first, but he had an independent podcast that technically, he was first, Jimmy Pardo was, but Adam had a radio show podcast. A lot of people do this discrepancy where they go, well, that's a radio show. This is real. It's like, what about the BBC? What about NPR? And then they go, oh. Yeah. So This American Life's not a podcast? And they go, oh. Even Jimmy Pardo was doing that for years. I wrote to him once, and he goes, oh. And he came back on the Carolla show, and he goes, no, this is actually how it happened. So they straightened out the record so they don't seem like assholes just trying to like toot their own horn. Because what Jimmy Pardo, Never Not Funny, did is groundbreaking and legendary. Independent podcast charging for a full show. John Hamm on every season. They're like 26 seasons deep now. It's a big deal. Wow. But so this time, Carolla has a podcast. A bunch of the radio shows have podcasts. There's a couple independent ones. There's probably like Keith and the Girl starting up right around now, or maybe it hasn't quite started yet. Yeah, dude's about to start up. A bunch of these type of shows. But Carolla's podcast is just a radio show thing. So it's not even in the news media. It's not the big podcast boom of 2009 yet.
Yeah.
And so Bryan's crushing it, and all his drops get deleted. I'm so bummed out. I go back, I find every single one of his drops. I cut it to the exact same length. I use the actual drops when he plays them. I send them all to him. He doesn't know how to load them into the board. You can do that, the Replay 360, and he doesn't want to. He just wants to move on. So he thanks me, and he doesn't use any of them.
Oh, no. But you have them still?
I have them all. He has them all, too.
Oh.
And so Bryan doesn't like doing extra work. It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's just a thing we love about Bryan. Then, so this time, I guess behind the scenes, Bryan is talking about bringing back Real Beat. Nobody knows this.
Yeah.
So it must be happening in 2007 or early 08.
Yeah.
He's talking about bringing it back. So in 2008, the Film Vault premieres on Free 2 HD, which is a new offshoot HD radio station from KLSX.
Okay.
They're desperate for content. HD radio was like their answer to satellite radio.
Okay.
I'm not too sure on the technology. I think I knew at the time. It was like digital satellite radio, but it's not satellite. It's a digital signal from the same radio towers you get the regular thing. But it comes super clear.
Was it online? Like you could listen to it online?
You could listen to it online, and you also had to have
an
HD radio in your car, which they were starting to install.
Oh,
it was kind of like the HD DVD versus Blu-ray, like Sirius, where like it wasn't going to take off. But people were doing, and then now they still have HD radios in most cars. You have an HD antenna, but I don't know which states have HD stations or which ones are traditional FM/AM. But anyway, so they needed content, but they didn't have 24 hours of content, so it would drift by 10-15 minutes every week, whatever their programming was. Because they didn't have 24 hours a day, so we keep shifting. So like shows would start airing at like 8:13. Like what are you? That's not right. What's happening? And so the Film Vault continues to air on Free 2 HD. Bryan's not promoting this at all. Like nobody has any idea this is happening. So it would air like between. For me, it was 3 and 5 a.m. Hawaii time. So for Los Angeles, I think it was like 8 or 9 a.m. Hawaii changes between, I think it's 4 and 5 hours, depending on the time change in the states, comparatively. So Hawaii time is always the same, but then comparatively, if the states change because of daylight savings, then it's a 4 or 5 hour difference, depending on which zone you're talking about.
Yeah. And you just continued to follow these guys because they were your friends, or you just really loved what they were doing?
I liked them from the show. So Bryan, I was a huge fan of. I didn't even really know him as a phone screener. I just hear him mention him once in a while. I fell in love with him on the morning show. He's a great dude. And Bryan put me in his top 8 on MySpace in 2006. That was a big deal. I'm the only fan in Bryan's top 8 guys.
That's amazing. I love that.
Bryan's
Does he know that?
Oh, he did that. Yeah, because he loved. I'd go, Bryan, today, right this time code. My man, you crushed it. Oh, this is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. Anderson would be proud. Like I was just listening, just like this was great, dude. And he just responded to it, I guess.
Oh my God.
Bryan likes positive attention.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, Bryan's a nice guy. And this time I'd still never interact with Anderson, had no idea anything about, if I would, didn't want to. I never wanted to meet Adam or Drew, anything like that.
Yeah.
So 2008, the Film Vault is continuing to air on Free 2 HD. Nobody has an idea. On Corolla boards, which is an offshoot message board for Corolla. There was an official one for the radio station, but the moderators, a couple of them were sleeping with the fan moderators and like traveling throughout the country, and kind of controversial. It made some of the other fan moderators upset. So they made a separate message board where they took pictures of this girl and then just would say horrible things about her. It was this private message board.
Oh, wow.
And they got leaked that they were doing this. So the radio station's like, oh man, screw this. And they killed that. They bulleted it. So then that private message board they opened up to the public, they left those secret forums. Everybody found them. And it was a message board to dox and hate fans of the show and talk about how ugly and R-worded they are. I was in there about how ugly I was. Even I wasn't even a person yet, but I eventually got put in there. And it's a whole bunch of people. There's mean people.
Yeah.
And so that's why they didn't have an official message board anymore, because of that. Then the unofficial one became the official one, technically, because all the fans would go there. So over there on Corolla boards, now known as Dime for Scale, the user known as 4Door discovers the stream of the Film Vault on Free 2 HD and records the first podcast files pirated once. So he's stream recording, he records them, he posts them, he goes, oh, I found this, it's pretty good. And then I go, oh my God, what is this? Like, I had no idea Bryan was doing this. At this point in 2008, I was calling into the morning show. So in 2008, January, I was so miserable in Hawaii and stressed out. The podcast wasn't dependably posting as it was previously. It was really messing me up. I was like, we got to figure out what's going on with this. I'm going to call in the show. The only time I could call them is at 3 a.m. And they also blocked outside numbers. You could only call them from the local markets. So I had to do a whole bunch of digging. I finally found the station number that I could call from outside the state. I waited till 3 a.m., went to my street corner so my crazy neighbors wouldn't mess it up or anybody wouldn't do anything. Called them from my cell phone on a street corner at 3 a.m. to complain about the podcast. And that's when I first told Adam on air what a podcast was, that he had one, that it needed to be posted more dependably. I commented Bryan on his great work. And then Adam dubbed me the most miserable man in Maui, but I was in Honolulu. And then Teresa, the news girl, goes, Giovanni, are you a super fan? Which I'd never even heard the phrase. I go, I guess so. I don't know. Sure, whatever. And she starts calling me super fan Giovanni. And then I start calling in like, hey, you should have this guest on from Loveline, or you should do this, or what did you guys doing that? And like, so I was a regular character. I only called in 19 times over 14 months. So I try to space out. They wanted me to call in more, but again, there's 3 or 4 people who hate me. Yeah, they wanted me to call in way more than that. So they had a guy, prisoner David, who called him weekly, but he was in jail for statutory rape and the attempted murder of his victim.
Got you.
Yeah, it wasn't a good caller. I'm a much better dude than that guy.
Yeah,
that guy did not get any message board hate.
Barely, you're barely a better, but
yeah.
you know.
They did not like me, but they did have probably prisoner David.
Yeah.
But so I'm calling at the time, and I have no idea this is happening. So I'm like, I have to start recording this too, because this Florida guy's not that interested. He's like, yeah, I'm not gonna keep doing it. So I start doing it. So I'm waking up every morning at 3 a.m. on Sundays to record this stupid show, and they were playing the same episodes over and over again, 20 weeks in a row, with a sound problem. So every other word it cuts out like.
Oh my god.
So I'm syncopating the files, going back, removing the little spaces in between each one, trying to fix.
Wow. That's rough.
Yeah, I'm wasting my life, dude.
Do you have any like voice recordings or files of you calling in?
Oh yeah, I have all of them.
That's cool.
Yeah, I have the official files, and
but that was on Loveline.
No, this is on the morning show.
Oh, the morning show. Sorry, Loveline is not Adam anymore.
Yeah, I never called in Loveline. My friend tried to call in 2004 with me on the line. We were gonna tell Adam about Family Guy coming back before it had been announced, because at my job I found out, because I helped out one of the producers. And Tara, don't call me Tara, God damn it, Brian's opposition phone screener, said that wasn't very interesting and hung up on me.
Oh my god, for me, Family Guy coming back was huge, because
she didn't care. She's a mean person. She loved The Simpsons. She liked animated shows. She just didn't want me to tell Adam that. Yeah, so did I. So that's the whole thing. I talked to Mike Henry. He's like, we're coming back. I'm like, what do you mean we're coming back? He's like, we're coming back. He's like, you can't tell anybody. He's like, if you tell anybody, I'll know, because nobody knows yet. I was like, what? It's like I was like, oh man, I was gonna tell Adam, and then nobody ever knew. But it was a sliding doors moment. I never got to talk to Adam. I didn't call into Loveline until the very final episode in 2016, because Anderson wanted me to, and I was the very last caller on Loveline. How poetic! But that's a whole other story. So I take over recording in 2008, because nobody else cared enough to continue doing it. So I'm now recording the Film Vault for everybody. And they just stopped posting new. They're not playing new episodes. Nobody cares. Nobody's monitoring this free 2 HD station. It's just running independently. It is crazy how understaffed, unequipped, and how sloppy everything in radio is. You can't believe what kind of an industry this is. It is shocking still to this day how bad it got.
So these are the episodes that Anderson, technically, he always says nobody was listening to us. This was the Film Vault, but we had no listeners. He says that quite a bit.
Because nobody advertised it, and nobody knew how to get it, and nobody cared. And Brian was on a morning show, and he was like too sheepish to go, and I have the Film Vault. So then I started calling, and I found out the Film Vault, couldn't get the new episode, so I bring that up. Mike Chaffee, the underling intern guy at KLSX, who works for the Carolla Show, he's now the head YouTube guy at Jimmy Kimmel Live for like 13 years. And he launched Adam Carolla's podcast, changed podcasting forever. Nobody has any idea. It was all Mike Chaffee and me just helping him, saying, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? But it was all Chaffee doing all the work, and everybody else gets all the credit. And that created a modern podcast comedy boom. It was literally all this one man's doing. And so I say, hey, why don't you post the Film Vault as a podcast? So they put up TFV 2008, March 9th through 2009, 2/18, February 18th. And there's basically 2 episodes roughly every month for most of the year. A couple months they skip. And they're up there officially as podcast files in 3 segments per show, because that's how KLSX did everything. Carolla Show was 12 segments. So you have to drive down 12 files.
And can I ask where Logan is in all of this?
Doesn't exist yet as part of it.
Doesn't exist yet. Okay.
Nope, not involved.
I was just curious if he was.
Yep. So TFV's going strong. 2009, Carolla Show's ending because the station's flipping formats. They're not doing any more talk. They're going to Jack format. They don't have to pay anybody. All automated all the time. Brian's diagnosed.
That's Jack FM.
Yeah, Brian's diagnosed. And funnily enough, Jack Silver was their station, the head of the station. What the fuck's his name? I can't think of his name right now. I hate him so much. The head executive at KLSX, who tortured Brian and Adam for years. Brian has an impression of Jack Silver, the program director, and he does it still this day. Hey, peeps, what's up? He was like this crazy perverted guy. He would wear the beer keg costume to the Playboy Mansion. Tap here, ladies. He literally kept a pair of binoculars in his office to stare at women exiting the gym across the street. Appropriate.
That shit bothers the fuck out of me.
Oh, dude, you have no idea.
Yeah.
And he thought it was totally fine, appropriate. And like they hated Adam and his staff. They refused to buy peanut butter. So Adam's agent, who's Jon Stewart's agent, had to call the station and go, baby, what do you mean? What are you saying? It's like, well, they won't buy any peanut butter. Well, how much are you asking for? Like a case? What do you? No, there's one jar of peanut butter for the staff, so we can have What? I don't. And then he called Jack Silver, and he was trying to like. And then Jack Silver's like, we can't afford this. And then James Dixon called Adam back. He's like, baby. He's always says baby, everybody. He was on the State. Thomas Lennon played a version of him. He was also the agent of all the guys in the State.
Okay.
In the 90s. And so he's a baby. I don't like. He just perplexed Adam's agent, who just couldn't understand that they wouldn't pay for a jar of peanut butter. They hated Adam. They thought Adam ripped them off, that they were getting the Man Show, the radio show. They thought Jimmy Kimmel was going to be a daily host, even though he has a late night show. How's that even possible? He's a show that airs at 11 p.m. and he records at like 7 o'clock at night. And he's supposed to be back at 6 in the morning doing that when he's in his
that's
late night show writing.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. And he was a full-time producer on the show. He called in. He came in and hosted when Adam's kids were born, the 2 episodes Adam missed. He was there hosting. So like he was totally involved, but they had to pay him $1 million and they were very resentful about it. And I know Jack Silver's personal assistant, the guy that had to buff the binoculars. And to this day, he's still like, well, they did kind of rip us off. And it's like, buddy, your boss is a pervert. You're wrong. Sorry.
Yeah.
Even that guy's a really nice guy, and he's not on that side of thinking. It's just he's blinded to Adam's role in that. Everyone still hates Adam.
Have you thought about the KLSX guy's name yet?
Oh, Jack Silver, the program director. I couldn't think of the title. I just want to say.
Okay.
He's program director Jack Silver.
I wanted
Jack
I wanted to throw him in the dirt, but I didn't realize that you had already said the name.
Yeah, Bryan does an impression of him. He does it all over the Adam Carolla show the past 10, 15 years.
Okay.
It's a thing he does. We can get him to do on the Film Vault, but people don't know who he's doing. It's a perfect impression of the guy's voice. He's just kind of one of those guys who's like, did you blow your nose out on coke in the 80s? You weren't ever really funny. You just wanted to work in radio, and you failed upwards, and that's him.
Wow.
So 2009, the show's ending, and Bryan is diagnosed with cancer. And his future with TFV and on Earth is called into question.
I laughed so hard when I saw that. And I know it's because we know he's good that we can laugh now. But when I saw that you wrote,
I never thought Bryan was going to die. And it's not a thing of, I do this all the time with people. I do positive thinking. If somebody tells me they're sick, I'm like, oh, fuck, this person's going to die. But I never thought it. It wasn't like, oh, I love Bryan so much where he's special. I just knew this weird thing about him, that he had his gallbladder removed. And he lost weight and got healthier and became like he became like handsome and like he became a different dude. And like the chick who rejected him in college, then rejected him, was really interested in him, became his wife. Just he's a different dude, a different position in his life. Not just because he's just handsomer or whatever, but he just completely changed who he was because he had this surgery. Before that, he was a secret shopper for Jack in the Box, making himself sick, eating his food every day. And then he has the surgery and it completely changed him. He was like a balding like I'll show you a picture of Bryan 2003. You'd be like, he looks 50, and you look at Bryan in 2008. It's like, oh my God, that's the same man.
Yeah, he's obviously
older,
this is
and he looks
no
younger.
offense, but he's a little too skinny now, and obviously that's from his health issues. So I'm not saying
in person though. If you see him in a suit, even when he's real skinny, my God, man, I've driven him a couple times where he comes down in a fancy suit, a little stubble.
Nice.
Like, Bryan, are you a male model? What's going on here, buddy?
No, he's very handsome. I've seen a couple of pictures where he looks a little chunky.
He just looked older. It's just weird. He just doesn't look like himself. And after that, so I never thought he's gonna die. I'm just like, I'm just like, whatever. Like, I wasn't even like phased by it. And in hindsight, it's cold and kind of shitty, but that's not the way it was intended.
Nope, not at all. I'm glad he's, his story on Earth is still being told in the lamest way to say that.
No, it's beautiful. So in this time, in 2009, Adam's starting up the podcast because the radio station ended. He has a weekend to start. The show ends on Thursday's the last episode because Friday they're flipping formats. And so by Sunday at midnight, Monday morning, he has to have an episode posted. To get approved on iTunes takes longer than that. You can't even do that. Even at the time, it was harder to do, even though there was less shows being processed. Chaffee pulls some magic, gets it RSS feed on iTunes within 72 hours or less. We get a website up. All the while, Adam's best friend, not from childhood, but from like his teenage years, Donnie, who had been fired from his job at E as the editor, as Wild On, that show that would show like beach footage of people scantily clad.
Oh, yes.
He's probably fired just due to downsizing, but he was known to keep the footage and share it with other people illegally for
Oh.
masturbatory reasons.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can't even say that word.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. Distributing those, that's not for you, uncensored. That should don't do that. So, anyways, this whole press thing started that Donnie and Adam are going to start a podcast together. You know, two old boys in the valley make good and come through like this whole thing. I'm like, but guys, Adam's already had a podcast since 2006. I told him about 2008. Donnie didn't tell him about this. I told him about it on air. I'm like, yeah, we're just doing this, whatever. And so me and Chaffee are just putting our heads down, getting all the work done. Chaffee gets the website up. He does cash fly hosting that costs Adam 200 grand a month or some 20 grand a month. It was some crazy numbers. Like
wow.
the first year, he has like $300,000. Adam can't earn any money because he still has his contract.
Mm-hmm.
He can't go to a radio station, so he literally can't earn money, but he's burning money now doing this podcast really early on. Chaffee gets it all launched. Donnie and his family don't know how to do anything. They're quickly becoming these like control freaks. It eventually resulted in them creating a company around Adam called Ace Broadcasting that wasn't Adam's company. Adam already has one. It's a different name. And they try to get incorporated. They wanted 50% of Adam's earnings for life. So they want to step in above his agent and take everything. And Adam was like, I don't know what to do with this. Like every day they'd pressure him for a contract or a deal. And I would come out and visit and I'd see them after a show. They'd be like big vultures waiting for him to get in that room with him and talk to him and just sign this one, Adam, sign this one. And Adam, you could see he just didn't want to do it. Eventually got to a breaking point. He told Donnie, listen, you can still be involved with all the shows, still get all the money, everything. You can have half of all of my live shows. You don't have to even tour with us. You just have to let Mike August, the business manager, run everything. And he'd already been working there the whole time. And he goes, no, nobody's going to be in charge of me. He goes, let's just have lunch or something. He's like, no, F you. I'm going to sue you.
Yeah.
And then so Donnie called me up. So Donnie did a bunch of weird shit over the years, including with the film vault we'll get into. And I didn't want to believe a lot of it. I was trying to well, he's Adam's best friend. He's not going anywhere. We have to like work with him. He chased Teresa Strasser, the news girl, off. She emailed me telling me what a snake he was, how evil his family was, not to trust them. I was like, well, Donnie's a sexist. I can't change anything. I'm like 24. I'm not even out there. How am I going to make this guy not be a sexist and treat women badly? On air, he admits he never even pursued a woman to be a friend. He only pursues women for intimate relationships. He views them that way. He's just a very gross person. And he's not punished for that. Like women loved him. He was like beloved by women. Like he was like a cute teddy bear. He like got every woman he wanted. Meanwhile, Adam never got a girlfriend, and Donnie, this little short weirdo, got everybody. And he hated women.
Adam wasn't big enough to be getting the girls at this point.
He had no self-esteem. He has the same problem I have because of his parents.
Yeah, me too.
So Adam always thought he was ugly and terrible. He looks back now. He's like, oh my God, I wasn't. But he wouldn't pursue anything. And also, Adam only wants to be romantic with women he's attracted to. Everyone knows this because it was revealed on air, but Adam never talks about it. Adam got everyone's dream. He was in love with Molly Ringwald's sister. That was his Winnie Cooper his whole life. And she's like a little bit like a year old or something. And when he was 16, she was like, fuck it. Let's have sex. And he lost his virginity to the woman he was in love with and then never had a relationship with her. She even talks about it on stage. So it's not even me revealing anything. She's proud.
That's amazing.
I mean, he never brings that part up. So first time he has sex is with his dream girl. And so the rest of his life, he's like, lots of opportunities with women he's not attracted to. And instead of sleeping with them or like, using them, he would just like not do that, including one time where he wouldn't make out with a girl. So she told a group of guys he hit her. They said, oh, that's not cool, man. And he goes, no, that didn't happen. And they go, well, he's like, we'll kick your ass. He's like, well, listen, I would fight you guys, but I just got knee surgery at orthopedic. He goes, I'm going to break your other knee.
Oh my God.
So he goes out in the street and this big Mexican guy gets his face. He knocks the guy out. Then his friend runs up with a baseball bat, hits Adam in the knee with his baseball bat. This guy ends up being a commercial airline pilot named Terry Mosier, who Adam knows the name of. He calls into the morning show with Bryan there and says, yeah, I did that. While he's a commercial airline pilot, admitting that he hit Adam with a baseball bat when Adam didn't do anything. And then Adam's friends apprehended him a year later, brought him in a headlock to Adam in a bathroom with some chick he's making out with. And goes, what do you want to do with him, Adam? Adam goes, just let him go.
So there was no charges or anything against that guy?
No. And then Adam's friends dragged him to the bathroom to beat him up. And Adam goes, just let him go.
Yeah, good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, no, that's Adam. But so anyways, Donnie, terrible guy, chased Teresa off. He ruined the film vault. Why it wasn't there on the orange couch for long. We'll get into that. He eventually tried to frame me for posting on the message board. People post as me on their website on Adam Carolla's own site. And say, but it wouldn't be my IP address. It'd be the wrong state. And I'm like, that's not me, man. But it was clear he just didn't want me out there because I knew too much. And Chaffee was already being chased off. Chaffee went to Jimmy Kimmel Live. Jimmy Kimmel poached him. And Adam was kind of a man out alone. And so I got this DVD set idea done where Adam's podcasts were put on DVD. We sold them directly to fans, made $240,000.
Wow.
I told the idea to Mark Maron the first time he came in studio. He went and then gave the idea to his producer, who he then says invented podcast DVDs. I have pictures of me holding the discs up. explaining it to him, literally in Adam's shop while he's eating all the donuts. I remember everything clear as day. He was concerned to go on air. He thought Adam would fight. I told him they'd already been on air with each other. They ended up doing a perfect podcast where they talked about farts instead of politics for an entire hour. And it was magical. But now that producer of WTF is known as the inventor of podcast data DVDs when I'm the inventor of them. And that's just another thing that gets
known world round as the inventor.
Well, everyone on his 1000th episode, Mark Maron talked about him, how that made them money, how that kept them going without him doing that. And he's like, my brilliant. He's like, that guy didn't invent it, I did, and I told you about it to your face, and then I told you if you could use it, and you should tell your producer because it's a good idea. So Adam made 240 grand. Mark Maron made like 100. So Adam made 240 G's. Donnie made that money disappear, and then he didn't pay me. I didn't want anything, but Adam got super pissed. He's like, "What? He's not paying you?" And then eventually he gave me $2 grand. So I got 1%, less than 1%.
1%.
I got less than 1%. Yeah, I didn't want it though. I didn't care, so I didn't bother. But Adam was so fucking pissed, and Donnie was pissed about having to cut that check. He tried to cut out of the company's money as opposed to his own money, even though he took.
He was just a dick to be a dick.
Well, he just wanted stuff. Adam was their loser buddy who became a millionaire, and so all of his friends, it was Donnie's cousin Sandy, Donnie's wife, and then their other friend Maddie, who's very nice, but like they weren't millionaires like Adam. And they thought they're better than him. Like Donnie's mom's a real estate agent. She bought all of Adam's properties. So Adam introduced her to Jimmy Kimmel. Adam made Donnie's mom a millionaire. So
Jimmy and Adam aren't friends at all, eh?
Oh, nobody is now. No.
Yeah.
So after Donnie decided he's going to go nuclear, he first tried to sever me from the network, told me I could never talk to Adam again. I was a dangerous person. I have no misdemeanors, no felonies. I've never thrown a first punch. I don't do anything. At worst, I maybe called somebody a mean the internet once, but the times he was trying to frame me for weren't those times. So it's like, okay, you can't even do that. What are you trying to do, Donnie? So then after he basically severed me from the network, I'm never going to talk to Adam again. He calls me up and says that Adam's a terrible person, that Adam hates me, hates all of his fans, that he's a terrible guy. Nobody should like him. He's going to sue Adam for everything he's got. He wants to get more dirt from me. He wants me to testify against Adam. He may have even been trying to like have me tell Adam this stuff. I don't know if he knew I was going to. But little did he know, I was going to meet Adam at a live show to run the boards for him with Mike August because Donnie wasn't there. And then I'm like, Adam, I got some bad news, buddy. I was like, you want it before or after the show? He's like, tell me now. I was like, you sure you're going to do two live shows? He's like, tell me now. I'm like, Donnie's going to sue you for everything. Here's all his plan. Here's what he's going to do. Here's all the beans. I'm ride or die ace, man. I don't give a shit. It's Adam, Drew, and Anderson. I'm not going to take anybody else's side. Brian as well. So then Adam braces for everything. Over the next series of months, Adam calls me when they're doing depositions. He's like, yeah, I'm watching Donnie lie his ass off on stand. Can you give me more details? Give me this. All of Adam's friends were there. Donnie's family just staring daggers at Adam, like just being abusive and rude and lying about him, trying to steal all his money. They wanted 50% of his earnings for life, of everything.
Donnie's just everything. Money hungry and fame hungry. Like,
I guess
clearly
he felt he was earned something, but like the whole story wasn't true. Donnie had Adam buy a new monitor, and Mike Lynch walked in on masturbating in the workday.
Oh,
that's the most expensive Apple monitor at the time. That super expensive one, circa 2009, 2010.
Yeah,
it was crazy overpriced, just so he could beat off to it at work. But like you should be fired for that. And Adam wouldn't even bring that up in the depositions. I'm like, let's bring that up. He shouldn't have even continued working after. That's a sex offense. He should actually be filed. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that to him.
Yeah, Adam, you know what? The more you talk, the more I like Adam's his beliefs and his core.
That's what even Anderson came around to him. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where everybody thought they knew the guy, but it wasn't quite accurate.
I'm not his politics. Like, I don't lean towards a lot of that, but
yeah, but that's so recent. It's so weird, dude. I can't even get into it, but there's a whole thing of like Fox News did something to people of a certain age, and post 9/11 did something.
Yeah.
And Adam watches all the news channels.
And COVID did something to it. It changed a lot of people. So
yeah, there's a whole thing happening. There's multi-layered, but I'm not even sure what are his politics. People ask him on website, so you're a Republican, huh? And he goes, yeah, I guess, whatever. And the next episode, so you're Republican. He's like, no, I'm a 90s liberal. He's like I'm still this. I believe in all these things. He's like, I agree with all liberals on 95% of issues, and I disagree on 5. And that's kind of always been his thing.
Yeah.
Where he's like, and then also my whole argument for him all the time back in the day was, do your parents agree with you 100% of the time? Your best friend agrees 100% of the time? 95% is a pretty good odds. It's like, I agree with you on this, this, and this. I disagree on this. All right. Well, we have a lot of common ground. People don't think that way. People cut Adam out of their listening habits as soon as they disagree with him, unaware that Drew was actually voting Republican all throughout Loveline, not Adam. Adam wasn't voting. And so people just have perceptions. That's the whole other thing, is how people perceive people on shows and who they are. And I've done it myself, and so has Anderson. All of us have kind of done it where you don't really know who the people are, and you think things about them that aren't actually true based on again,
what you've heard and
like exactly what happened to Anderson with Jimmy Kimmel
meetings.
stuff, where Jimmy Kimmel, Anderson can't come along when nobody wanted that.
Yeah. So where
If you
are
would have asked
we?
Adam, he would have went, why can't Anderson come along? I would be like, I guess. Like
Jimmy
Adam
said
would never.
that?
Jimmy said that no, Anderson. He banned Anderson.
I thought you said Jimmy told told Adam no more. Like
No, he told all the underlings. So he told everybody besides Adam.
So
That's what
Jimmy
people
doesn't
do. People do this to Adam all the time.
Okay.
They try to speak for him.
Okay.
When you actually ask him, he doesn't care. Like people run around like, oh my god. Like there's this famous story of there's like a PA on a set, and he goes, Adam, do you need anything to drink? He goes, peach Snapple. So this guy drove around town for 3 hours looking for peach Snapple, like peach puree.
I love peach Snapple.
Not peach peach tea Snapple. He didn't understand that was all they made. So he held on to this, and like he came back and he was miserable. And he told him they just don't have peach Snapple. And then like years later, he met this guy and he goes, yeah, you chased me out of the industry. And I was like, well, what happened? He goes, yeah, I was on a set and you want a peach Snapple. And I came back and then I never worked again. And I was like, I didn't care. Peach Snapple tea? What?
The littlest things, man.
The guy held on to it for like 15 years. He literally blamed it on why he wasn't in the industry anymore.
Wow. The littlest things can ruin.
It's crazy, dude. And me and Anderson didn't like me. People don't even know this part. So most of the fans who dislike me, it's because Anderson used to rail on me on air. People don't even know that.
What show did he used to rail on you? On the Loveline?
On the Film Vault.
On the Film Vault.
About this very timeline we're discussing right now. Because I never got to finish it and nobody would ever let me finish talking or post it or look at what I was saying.
Wow. I didn't know that. Now
So at this time, 2009, Bryan's diagnosed, called into question his life on Earth, whatever. Adam's going to have this thing called Shakespeare charity event at Adam Caroll's Malibu home next to Howie Mandel's house, where Howie Mandel's hip hop son's filming like music videos all the time and stuff.
And is this to raise money for Bryan or just
no? This is to raise money for inner city youth to practice Shakespeare and get good at arts, which Adam always makes fun of and jokes about. Like, why would you do this? His wife was passionate about the charity. He's cool. He's like, I want to help inner city kids. So everybody paid money. We all showed up. It was like $150, $300 for VIP. Get a name tag. You just walk around his backyard. I was so nervous. I haven't met any of these people before. I didn't even want to come. Low self-esteem. I don't like how I look. I knew my pictures were going to be all on the message board. I was going to be torn apart. Nothing really obviously terribly wrong with me. Just lifetime of abuse and unkindness. And so I just didn't want to be there in person. Like, it just I never want to be anywhere in person. Yeah. And so I was like, I guess I'll have a beer. I have an empty stomach. I don't know. I'm with this guy, Neil. I don't even know, but he was nice enough to drive me. And I have it's one of these beers that have like the swirl top. I don't know what was it, Miller who was doing it at the time, where the top is like swirled so it goes down faster or something. I don't know. The tornado or whatever. So I drink one of these things. I'm like, I'm fine. And then I'll have another one. I'm fine. And then it just starts foaming up in my empty stomach. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to vomit at Adam's Malibu house immediately. I haven't even been here 30 minutes. So me and Neil are walking. I'm like, excuse me. And nobody's watching. I walk over to a bush and just hurl into a bush.
Oh no.
Then I proceed to meet everybody for the first time. And then I get up to Bryan and his wife, Christy.
Yeah.
And Bryan's looking shaky as shit.
They weren't married. They weren't married yet.
She engaged, whatever they were at the time. So fiance. Okay. So I was his now wife, Christy. And so they're there together. And
I just wanted to catch you on something. I just wanted to be able to catch you, the Geo, on something.
I did mean now wife when I said it, but you got me.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, it was his current wife, his present wife, Christy. But so that's how we know her. But she was there and with him, kind of holding him up. He had a red cap on. There's pictures of me talking to him. He's looking a little swollen, and he just looks bad. That same day, I met Dr. Bruce, who was a fill-in doctor for Dr. Drew, a really good guy.
Mm-hmm.
I met his sister there as well at the event, and she has Bryan's exact condition.
Oh, really?
And she'd been living with him for 10 years, and she was fine. She was like she was normal.
Oh, good.
So I was like, oh, shit. I was like, Bryan got a bad diagnosis. This lady's fine. I was like, Bruce, you got to tell Bryan whatever you told her. You got to help him out. And then I go over to Bryan. I'm like, Bryan, love you, man. It's so nice to finally meet you. You're going to pull through, but, blah, blah, blah. What about the Film Vault? Are you coming back to the Film Vault? And this broke my heart. Christy goes, he's never coming back to the Film Vault. And she wasn't mean, but she was stern and short. And like I almost
Yeah.
wanted to cry, but I was like a 23-year-old man or something at the time. I'm like, I can't embarrass myself. And I was
So
like,
what form of the Film Vault are we in right now?
this is the Film Vault aired its last episode, which was February 18th, 2009, and it's
Okay.
basically dead. And we don't know where it's going to happen, what's going to happen with it. This is
Bef-
May 18th, 2009, and I'm trying to get the show back. So
Mhm.
I'm basically the only one. Like everyone's basically written off. Bryan is dead. Anderson didn't want to do anything, or maybe he's planning behind the scenes at this point, but he doesn't know what to do. The show's on pause.
Is this
And
pre-Orange Couch?
oh yes,
Okay, okay.
so
I thought
Adam has started the Orange Couch for his own podcast. There are no other podcasts that have immediately started.
okay. Okay.
So this is 2009. His shit's a hit. They're trying to build up the network. Donnie's still there, and they
Okay.
hire on Logan. Logan is a friend of Donnie's nephew. So he has a friend who has a
Okay.
nephew. They hire him as an intern. So nepotism hire. No
Nepo
experience,
baby.
nothing. Yeah, no experience, nothing. He turns out to be pretty talented. He can follow along. Although he's trained by Donnie. Donnie's a terrible audio engineer. Donnie recorded episodes through the laptop mic by accident. Donnie be stoned all the time. So he learns how to do everything the wrong way, which has to be repaired over the years through some of my techniques through Anderson, taught back to him, which is weird, which is the whole ultimate weirdness of how I process Loveline. Is how I learned how to do my stuff.
Mhm.
But so anyways, Logan starts there. Adam's, we're at the charity event. I get told Film Vault's dead forever. I'm the only Film Vault fan that knows this. My heart is broken. I can't have any reaction at all because Bryan's doing something far more serious. And Christy wasn't trying to be mean to me. To this day, I'm still scared of her. I don't know what, just in my head somewhere, like I'm terrified of her. She's the nicest person in the world. She's lovely and she's hilarious and talented. I loved her show and commercial grade. I loved her segment on the Corolla show, but I'm still deep down partially terrified of her.
So it
And
looks
so
like at this point, Anderson and Bryan, though, have only recorded like 15 episodes.
Yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 plus real beat.
Okay.
Plus there's a couple in there I think we lost. So let's say 20 episodes, 24 episodes or less, 2 dozen or less.
And people were listening? Like they were
because
starting
the podcast got posted officially.
Okay.
So once the podcast got posted officially, it became a real show. And all the 40,000 Kroll listeners then transferred over. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
And we remember Anderson saying and that it was like when they first went on, they were high on iTunes.
That's not even there. That's the next stage. We're not even there.
Okay. Yet. Okay. I'll shut the fuck up.
So this is the KLSX podcast. Several thousand people probably downloaded them, and then also thousands of people downloaded the pirate files I was providing. So we built up a thing. And on this message board, I was also providing Loveline on these secret threads. So we had threads on this message board that has like no views. My threads had 598,000 views in a year, or like we had crazy numbers, right? Like it was just crazy traffic on this message board.
Were you able to make money off of that anyway?
No. I lost money. I was running up credit card debt.
Yeah.
And people were calling me a thief and a scam artist and everything in the book. Selena, that I was going to murder Adam and Bryan, that I still have to sit with that. So like so much to the degree that I didn't want to meet them or be around them because people would accuse me of trying to harm them or do something to them. So I just try to like I basically let other people dictate how I live my life so I don't offend strangers.
Can I ask you about that Selena thing anymore? I don't, or was that something you just brushed by for a reason? I don't understand.
Oh, just with the idea of a fan killing a famous person.
Oh, like Selena.
Yeah, so that's what they always say is like that I'm gonna murder Adam because I'm like
I got you. Person. Okay.
Unaware, they don't know my personality at all. That I'll just leave, and that's what I do is I ghost and vanish for years at a time. When people are mean to me, I don't try to force my way.
Well, the super fan Geo doesn't sound like an
If you bothered to know the history though, and that some lady gave me the time, I'm like, sure, whatever. I was just trying to be nice to a nice lady. I don't know. Well, and Teresa actually gave me my first iPod. The one who called me Super Fan Giovanni. She had these online stalkers who were trying to get her to quit. She almost committed herself. I think she eventually did. They were trying to ruin her life for years because they just hated her and had nothing to do with her. It turns out they did the same thing to Allison and Gina. It was just any girl who was on the show, and they'd always say it was because of the unique girl. But then when she'd leave, they'd love her, the last one, and hate the new one. And they did it for 3 in a row.
Wow.
And then they tell you about how great the last one was. It's like, dude, I have all these posts from you saying how she should kill herself, and you writing this stuff on her mommy blog and trying to ruin her life and like stalking her.
Who was saying that?
Oh, hundreds of people. There was these online trolls who were doing this.
Oh, that's
so they were like ruining Teresa's life as the news girl. Bryan didn't get any of this because he was a dude. He was a sound effects guy.
Yeah.
So I'd help out and like get these people to stop by any means necessary, and it usually worked. And then Teresa just appreciated. She hired private investigators and stuff. They couldn't get him to stop.
Wow.
I eventually found one of the main guys. I just reasoned with him. He was living with his uncle. He was sad. He loved Buckethead, the guitarist, and he loved Taylor Swift, circa 2009, and he was an adult man.
I liked Taylor Swift circa 2009.
Oh, he liked her for
Teardrops on my guitar. Sorry.
No, I love her for the same reasons. He liked her for Olsen Twins turning 18.
Oh, okay.
He also probably liked the music, but
like
it was not about that. I reasoned with the guy. Eventually, he was like, he just stopped doing it. But it was I made him realize how much more pathetic I was than him. So like instead of like threatening him, he was like, gross. I don't want to be part of this fan base anymore. He left.
So just before we get into right now, Gio is told that Bryan will never appear on TFV again, and the show is done. So we are gonna leave it there. We are gonna take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Sweet.
I'm just gonna go beep so I can see that. Sorry if I did that in your ears. I just got to run to the bathroom, so.
Oh, potty break.
Yeah. Is that okay?
I think I'm gonna get a drink. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go to the bathroom, get a break, and I'll be get a beer, and I'll be right back.
Cool, buddy.
Okay. Thank you. Howdy. Nope, he is still gone. Teardrops on my guitar.
Hey-o.
He's the reason for the teardrops on my guitar. The only thing that keeps me wishing on a wishing star.
I love T-Swizzle.
I do. I like her better now in her. But I mean, I was a country fan, so I grew up with her, and I was like, oh, I like this girl.
I was introduced via an ex who was a big fan, and I wanted to write her off, but then I think the VMAs thing happened too, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like her standing up for herself and stuff afterward. So yeah,
the Kanye thing.
Yeah, with how she, I liked how her continued reaction. Eventually, her song I liked about it. Yeah, I got into her around the time she had that Superman song, like the acoustic 3-part cut.
Yeah. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, beep. Welcome. We are back. We are going to continue some in-depth Film Vault.
We'll try to make it shorter from here on out because we only have 3 years left as opposed to how far we've come. Avery pointed out that it spans 2 centuries.
Yeah, exactly. I have all the time in the world, but if you gotta... Okay, all right.
I have no heart out. This is just the listener's concern who hates hearing Geo talk.
Oh, I mean, fuck. I'm gonna split this up into 2. So I'm gonna have
the TFB history, then the superhero thing that's 4 minutes.
Exactly. So if people really don't want to listen to this, then they can go.
I like it.
Yeah, but I think there's going to be a lot of ears that want to hear a lot of these stories.
It's nice to know where your show you like comes from because this stuff's never explained. You'd think in the modern era, all this stuff would be recorded in like a Wikipedia article or somewhere. None of it's anywhere.
Yeah.
People remove it. Like Allison, the second news girl, was just deleted from Wikipedia because of some random man's whim. And it's like, oh, you can't tell me that there wasn't a little bit of sexism in that. Like, she's not a person. She doesn't exist.
Yeah.
She's a famous person. She's worked on a famous show. It doesn't make sense to me.
And a lot of podcasts today are just like, yeah, there's no story behind it, right? Like this just, I started a podcast. Okay, good for you. Another white man.
We have 5 listeners.
Yeah, exactly.
School sports. I hate that bitch. I got my own show now.
Oh yeah, I've listened to, some friends' podcasts where it's like, listen to my podcast, and I'm like, you guys are just, you're not saying anything of value.
My ultimate example of that is the Mitch cast.
Is it me?
Not you. No. So in 2009, when Adam started, there was all these other guys who had podcasts. Turns out this guy, Mitch in Portland, perfectly nice dude, really nice. Maybe like religious or something a little bit. And his buddy had a show called The Mitch Cast. And he's like, I'm the coolest guy in Portland. He was just like white dude, married, kids. And like, he was like, here's what's going on. And like, he showed up at the Corolla shows. They brought a Rainier cherry pie. So it was clear. It's like clear yellow, but it's delicious. But it's just cherry pie.
I've never even heard of that. What's it called?
Oh, you know Rainier cherries, the big yellow mountain ones?
Yeah.
Yellow flesh. They had a Rainier cherry pie. So it was just like a cherry pie, but it was clear or yellowish. It's like the same color as inside those cherries. I've only ever seen it once. It was in Portland. They brought it to the Aladdin Theater for Adam because he loves Rainier cherries. And the Mitch cast was like a local guy in Portland who had a podcast. And it was always my example of just kind of like, but why? Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's like,
why?
Where's this going to go? But maybe it doesn't need to go anywhere. Maybe it's just it's a hobbyist podcast, I guess. It's a weird era of podcast too, where anybody could have like struck it rich or made it big. It was kind of like the gold rush of podcasting. 2009 because of Adam. It led to What the Fuck with Mark Maron. It led to Earwolf Comedy Podcast Network. It led to Nerdist. All this stuff started because of Adam's podcast. All those people will tell you the same.
I started one in about 2010, but I didn't know anybody who loved music.
Did you thank Adam Carolla?
Right? What's that?
Did you thank Adam Carolla?
I did. Yeah, I sent him a written
good job.
Letter.
All right, cool. Totally approved.
No, I didn't.
I know.
Okay, so I think we're just a little bit past Bryan is diagnosed with cancer.
Yep.
And then Geo has just been told that Bryan will never appear on TFV again and the show is done. And that is because the show was continuing.
Well, it hadn't yet. So like we
yet.
know, I don't know if they knew this yet or what. But I asked, like, when Bryan gets healthy, could he ever come back? I was kind of like pushing a little bit, and it was like, no, it's not happening. I was like, okay. So
and
I dropped it. I didn't want to be too disrespectful. I was just trying
because then Christy was even. So then Christy must have been even angrier when she found out that it was going to continue without Bryan, and that was. I'm assuming she probably had
feelings on Bryan's behalf because she loves him so much, and Bryan even had feelings, and Bryan never has feelings about that kind of stuff.
Sorry.
So July 27th, 2009, Stephen from the UK, he launches the filmvault.net and he hosts all the first non-KLSX episodes, the free 2 HD episodes, basically everything, all the pirate stuff. He puts everything up there and he puts the top 5 films to miss fall winter with Mike Carano and Miss Movies co-hosting with Anderson and Bryan's absence, much to Bryan's chagrin, which he'll reveal later on. He felt like Anderson was replacing him. Anderson legitimately felt like he was just keeping the chair warm for him. And Anderson says he never thought he was going to die or go away. He thought he knew he'd be back. Bryan, I don't know how much he believes that or he did at the time. He's well past it now. But
do you really think he was upset? I didn't. I never got.
Oh yes, he was. They've had it out on air. There's a film vault about that. He said to Anderson, "Oh, you mean when you replace me?"
Yeah.
Like he hates those episodes.
Okay.
He won't listen to them. And like I've even brought up like when Bryan was coming back after this, I was like, "Oh, great! Now that the show's come back, let's bring Mike Carano and Miss Movies on." And like Miss Movies was still gonna come on as Red Light Green Light, but Mike Carano wasn't coming on as a co-host. That wasn't happening.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I was like, but he was so good. But Bryan wasn't even receptive to that, even though he likes Mike. That's how he was not happy.
I don't understand how Bryan couldn't understand all of that, but
he thought he was dying and he's being replaced from the thing he created. The show was his impetus that he made Anderson do, and now Anderson's taking it over without him, without even consulting him, and without saying, "Hey, here's what I'm going to do." Like, it's all miscommunication, dude. It's all people thinking the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Anderson's the guy that a month later, was pulling Bryan's penis out of his pants so he could urinate at the movies and putting it back for him. So
and
like,
I
nobody
do
in life would do that for me. Nobody would do that for me if my life depended on it.
Or a hobby.
Yeah.
Like I do it as a hobby. Like I wait.
You go to bathrooms, you help cancer guys with their dicks. I know.
Yeah. Do you have cancer? I can help.
You get something out of it, they get something out of it. Win-win. You're a hero. You are a hero.
I'm a hero. I don't like to say it, but I am a hero. Sorry. So Stephen from the UK launches the filmvault.net.
Yeah, and people always like to make a thing about me and Steven hating each other.
I was just going to ask that. Oh my God.
On the message board, he also had hosted my Loveline files for me. That's thing called Loveline Central. So he was hosting Loveline Central and the Film Vault files in the same place, but the Film Vault wasn't part of Loveline. He was just there because he didn't have a separate site. And the site got shut down for hosting the files. Somebody reported it. And I got bummed out. I'm like, oh man, all that work down the tubes. This is before Loveline tapes existed or any other website that was inspired by my work. And I was kind of sad about it. And I like made some posts, and he made fun of me. He was basically calling me like a pooper or a pussy.
So you guys,
it was just harmless. It wasn't even anything bad.
Are you still in contact at all in any way?
Oh no, we never spoke after that.
You don't know where he is now to this day?
I think he's still in Ireland. I don't think he wanted anything to do with me. Like we weren't like best friends. We were just two guys on a message board. I give him files. He put them on a site.
That's too bad. It'd be someone I would love to interview.
Yo, you can get hold of him through Anderson. They're still in touch with him.
Oh, is okay. All right. Well, maybe I will.
He's a really nice dude. So he did his website. He kept it up from 2009 through 2012. He did it all himself. I don't think they ever paid him. And they started hosting these independent podcasts on his website.
Okay. Interesting.
Filmvault.net.
So the first film, the first podcast
was topic was top 5 films to miss fall winter.
Okay.
So it's kind of a weird title too. It's like skip these movies that aren't.
I know, for the first one back. Hey, here's
it's also not the Film Vault spirit to like tell you not to watch movies that they haven't seen yet. Even like Red Light, Green Light's the closest they get to that. But that's before films
it was
even
movies they haven't even seen. I thought they were saying here's movies we've seen and we urge you to skip it, but
I don't think so because it's fall winter and this came out in July. So I'm pretty sure from memory there's like here's the movies come up that sound bad.
I didn't start listening till 2011. So
that's cool. See, that's why we're doing this, because people don't know all this shit.
Yeah.
So when I was listening to these episodes in Hawaii, there's like stories of me walking to the Walmart at like 11 p.m. listening to the pirate episodes over and over again, the first podcast files, and then picking up an air conditioner, getting on a bus, getting back to my apartment at like 2:30 in the morning, trying to install a window-mounted air conditioner with the Film Vault just playing, and it's like it's so we're all connected. So people are listening to these files.
That's what I said. Like we are a family.
It's a weird thing. So, anyways, with all this happening, 2009, it is announced on air that Bryan will host some sort of film show on the Ace Broadcasting Network. And my brain just started, what? I have to do something. I have to save the show. I have to do something. So after literally over a year, this is in 2010 now, of me pestering Bryan, Donnie, and Adam, I get Adam to say on air, because I was on the Adam Carolla show, I think 5 or 6 times. I'm legendary Hall of Famer guest. I'm basically their Steve Martin alcohol.
Hey, that was a sniff there. That was a deserved sniff. That was a Bryan sniff.
It wasn't, dude. Self-satisfied sniff. So after doing that, I get Adam to say, yes, Bryan can have the Film Vault, and he can call it the Film Vault he wants to. And yes, Anderson can come work here. I won't block him from working here.
Nice. Okay.
That's the thing that Bryan would never broach. Bryan would even promote the Film Vault on the morning show when he was working for the morning show, making the Film Vault. So he wasn't going to stick his neck on the line for a guy he's kind of mad at and say, hey, can Anderson come work here too, boss? So he wasn't going to do that. And nobody did. I even feel
bad sometimes saying to like Anderson and Bryan, like, hey, do you mind like shouting out my podcast? Like, so I kind of get where Bryan's coming from, you know, each place has its place, and you don't feel like it's the right place to bring
Bryan doesn't like rocking the boat. And then also
exactly.
How people talk about Anderson too. It's like, am I going to die on this hill that nobody else will die on? But Gio the guy who has nothing to lose, who's best buddies with Ace Man,
Yeah.
who helps him through his lawsuits, can just say, "Hey, Ace Man, can Anderson come work here on the podcast?" And they air it, and he said yes. And it was
Hey,
basically
Ace Man, can Anderson come over to play?
yeah, and it was dependent on Bryan, what Bryan wants. So
Yeah.
I guess Bryan and Anderson, they worked out whatever they were going to work out. It has nothing to do with me. That's all I did. That's my only role, was recording the pirate shows, essentially creating a little bit of a fandom on the message board. Anderson even came to that message board back in 08. He came as member Tiburon because he loves sharks and his work. And he was kind of funny. He'd joke around with us a little bit. He was a little harsh, post a couple of times. He's like, "What, you guys stealing our show, pirating our show?" He's like, "Oh, thanks." But it was just kind of, it wasn't really involved.
Yeah.
And I think he told somebody to fuck off or something, and he never came back. But so that's all I did in the show. But that's the thing that Anderson always gets a sticking point, and he would use on air, and he'd go, "Listen, Gio, I know you're listening right now. You didn't create the show. You didn't save the show. You didn't do that." Like, he'd get mad at me and say stuff, but it was nothing I never said any of that. It was just trying to record history accurately as it unfolded. And Anderson at the time was a little more hostile, didn't know who I was, where I was coming from.
At the very least, you helped the show immensely.
Yeah, I guess I just all I did was get Adam to say yes, he could do this one part. They did all the work. I don't know what they did behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But 2010, the Film Vault and Ace Broadcasting begins. So it starts relatively early, before May, because I have an email from May from Bryan where me and him are talking about, "Hey, do you have the old list we used to do?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, here's this old list. I found it from the Wayback Machine, or whatever. Here, take them all. Use these." And then me going, "Oh, the show is flowing pretty good. Here's what I think of this, blah, blah, blah." So they're doing that. And then in 2011, July, due to having never been paid $1 for over a year's worth of episodes, due to not signing the unprofessional and possibly illegal contract that actually may have gotten Donnie in trouble if they did sign, proposed by Donnie and his family, who were trying to hijack Adam's broadcasting career with this fake company, Ace Broadcasting, that didn't actually exist. So there's a multitude of reasons why you can't sign that contract. They want full ownership, and this wasn't Adam. Adam has no idea this is happening. They're trying to take full ownership of Adam at the same time too. They're trying to pod people Adam as well. He has no say over it. He's his friend. So he's just like, "I don't know what to do. I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable." As we will always do to Adam. He's not good at that stuff.
So how many episodes? And these episodes are going out as podcasts, right?
Podcast once a week.
And this is Orange Couch.
Yep, over 52 of them, I believe.
Okay. Over 52 on the Ace Broadcasting.
On the Orange Couch. Logan's the producer.
Yeah.
They have some guests on. It's kind of a different format than they do now. It's kind of more like a traditional podcast.
I always loved hearing Logan's girlfriend at the time, Snigger in the background, or
it wasn't his girlfriend. That was Katie.
Who's Katie? I don't never understood who that is.
Oh, this is a great story, buddy. This is great. This make me real sad though, because it makes me so sad. So Logan there was 2 other interns at KROQ Show who were the first unpaid interns along with me. There's 4 of us. There was 4 interns. It was funny. Donnie and his family called themselves the Core 4, like to cut, and Adam was not included. That was their secret meeting group. And this came on the lawsuit.
So you never met Anderson during this?
No, Anderson wasn't there yet. So this was 09, before Anderson came on in 2010.
Okay.
So I've only interacted with him on a message board. That's all I've done. And then also I called into Dr. Drew's morning show, because Drew also had a morning show in 2008. And I asked him about vaccines, because my parents never vaccinated me because they didn't love me. And I just wanted to schedule because I couldn't get one from a doctor. And they kept trying to give me the wrong vaccine, saying, "Oh, you want boosters?" I'm like, "No, I have never had the basic ones. I just need to know the order of operations to get them so I don't get the wrong ones. I can't get a booster for one I've never had the base for." But they didn't understand that. And Drew tried to explain it to me. It was too early. It was 2008. So nobody really had the adult vaccine thing. Now it's kind of figured out. And now.
So you knew about COVID back in 2008?
This was regular vaccine.
I'm kidding. I know. I'm being an idiot. I'm sorry.
It kills me, man. All I wanted was to be able to swim in Lake Washington my entire life. I lived next to it. All my friends did. I couldn't because I had active polio.
You had polio?
The lake. They dumped medical waste in the lake in the 70s. There's still active polio samples pulled from Lake Washington to this very day.
So that's why you didn't swim.
Swimming in it can result in you getting polio, and you're fucked.
Wow, this episode's making me out to seem so dumb. But anyways.
Oh, you're not dumb at all. You're not. I'm right there with you, man. This is all complicated, crazy. So, anyways, we're the first 4 interns. I'm remote, so I was by the time the podcast started, I moved from Hawaii to Chicago to get my job back. So I'm basically 2 months back into my job, or 3 months, and when the radio show gets canceled and the podcast starts, I'm helping Mike Chaffee remotely. We get it all launched. I do all this stuff with him. Nobody has any idea. We did all the work. Chaffee did everything. I just helped him. I was basically a sounding board, but I was there. I witnessed it.
Yeah.
I'm the Adam Curry of RSS feeds. Hey, why don't you put that there, boss? Oh, okay, good job. So I'm that guy. So I'm there witnessing this all remotely. They hire Logan. Logan, and then they hire Katie, who Logan I think knows. Katie is another intern. She's great. They call her Blaster Girl because Damashek would have her play the blaster sound effect on Dave's of Thunder, another podcast I did with Dave Damashek, who was the co-host on the morning show, who then eventually got his own podcast because Adam always gives people extra free jobs and money, takes care of everybody. And so Katie was there.
I started listening at the end of the Orange Couch days, and I didn't really know who Katie. I thought she was Logan's girlfriend, just laughing in the background.
Everyone always thought they were. Okay. Everyone always thought they were dating. Katie was like co-producer. She'd also produce and do some stuff sometimes as well. Oh. They would go on the After Disaster at night with Anderson and Mike Carano and Tyler White, and like get drunk and play with machetes in the parking lot. The After Disaster was called the Loveline After Disaster. It was an independent podcast recorded by Anderson with his friends after Loveline aired. And they would just fuck around.
So when did After Disaster, when did that start?
That started 2011-ish, 2010.
Okay, so around this time.
Yeah, kind of. Katie had already been at Corolla for about a year now.
Okay.
Logan been there. There's this other guy, Gabe. Gabe was a nice guy. Gabe really wanted to work on The Walking Dead in Atlanta. He was out there. He was trying his best. Really good dude. I came out to like a live show, and I was supposed to help out. And I never eat at live shows because I'm a vegetarian, not by choice. I drown and die as a baby. There's never any food for me. We're at the Improv Club. I just assume they're not going to have any food. Katie and Logan invited me to eat, but they were kind of cold shouldering me. Like there's this thing of like, I'm the remote intern, and people always acted like I'm trying to like shove my way in or do something. So like the one day the Make-A-Wish kids there, it was me. They were like, hey, you want to come eat with us? But I felt like they didn't want me around, so I didn't join them. I stayed with Mike Dawson, the announcer, and I helped set up the live show. And I was just working all day long. And then at the end of the day, I was supposed to go crash at Gabe's house because I had no money. I'm a poor person. I was coming from living in Hawaii off my credit cards. Don't have a license at the time. Just got my job back. It's $8 an hour. I've been without a job for 2 years. It's terrible. And so Gabe's nice enough to let me crash on his couch with his roommates. So I get back at like midnight. It's silent. The sliding glass doors open. A house I've never been to. I'm walking at nighttime. It's dark. There's a couch with a blanket on it. I just drank 2 gallons of water because I was dehydrated all day. So I just drank those giant ones.
Yeah.
And I'm having some stomach problems you discussed earlier because I have an empty stomach and I basically just do what you do when you prepare for a colonic. So I go to the bathroom and there's mushrooms growing out of the floor.
Oh, wow.
Literal mushrooms.
Come on, Gabe.
Paper thin walls with all 3 of their bedrooms surrounding me.
Uh-huh.
And what's about to happen, there's going to be noise. It's all going to be liquid, but there's going to be a lot of noise, and it's going to sound probably like a gunshot.
Well,
so in my mind, I go, you know what? I'm gonna pretend this didn't happen. I'm just gonna go to bed. And I go to bed, wake up in the morning. Shit, I gotta get my flight. Call a cab. Get in the cab. It's pre-Uber. Cab comes. I'm like, what is that smell? I'm like, this cab driver is disgusting. This is gross. I was like, man, I guess I'm gonna tip this guy, but I'm really grossed out. Get through security at the Burbank Airport, Bob Hope Airport, is titled part. It still smells. I'm like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Go to the bathroom, look at myself, nothing on me. I'm like, what the fuck is that smell? My pants, I'm wearing brown Dickies. That wasn't probably not a good idea. And I'm wearing them. There's nothing on them, nothing on my pants, nothing. Pull them off. I'm like, what's that? My butt feels a little weird. It's like dry though, like we got wet and dried. Apparently, in my sleep, I sharted. But it's all liquid, so there's no material. It's just butt liquid dried on my pants with a gross smell. So then I realize I've left it all over his blanket on that couch and maybe on the couch itself.
Oh,
so I call a cab back.
I
run outside the airport. It's a tiny airport. Get in the cab, race back to this house I've never been to before, open the sliding glass door, pull the blanket off. Luckily, there's nothing anywhere, but the blanket does smell like butt. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to throw this out the trash. I put it on top of the trash can just in case he wants or something. And then I call Gabe. I run back to the airport, get back to security, get on my plane, get to Denver. So I get to Denver. I call Gabe. I tell him what happened. So embarrassed. I have to tell him the truth. I say, I'm sending you money. I send him like $80 or something. And he's like, oh, you don't have to do that. Katie's, of course, there in the background, hears everything. Not a confidant. This comes up later. Anyway, so Gabe eventually leaves, goes to work on The Walking Dead. Tragically, he passed away in his sleep last year. Nobody knows what happened. His girlfriend posted on Facebook. I couldn't get a hold of Logan or Katie. I finally got a hold of Katie on Instagram. She had like, that's sad. He was a nice guy, and that's about it. Nobody on air would give him a rest in peace in memoriam. Nobody remembered him on staff. He worked there for a year. Adam remembered him.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, but nobody else did. And so
I mean, a lot of people, like,
I just see myself in that so much. It's this dude worked there, he put his heart, sweat into the show, and nobody remembers it existed.
I know.
He's dead now. So anyways, Katie eventually left the network because she wanted to work at Earwolf. It was her dream job. She loved loved the comedy stylings of Earwolf. She loved everything there.
Yeah, I love Earwolf.
Loved everything about it. And this can all be told now because we're 10 years removed, and I think she hates me anyway. I always love things with Katie. I think she's great. So she goes over there, and they have this weird co-manager who got into it with Scott Aukerman, the head of the network who created it. Mm-hmm. And eventually they had a lawsuit and a breakup like all the podcast networks did. Yeah. She gets over there. This guy's a total asshole. He's like condescending, sexist, rude, piece of shit. Fires her the first week.
Oh, wow.
She confides in me. Like I think she like walked off, so she didn't technically get fired. Basically, it was not a good place. And I'm like, go back to Corolla. She's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going back there. I didn't know the stuff with Donnie, that she probably had her own things with Donnie, how shitty those people were to her, and she didn't want to be back there. It wasn't about Adam. Mm-hmm. And I was like, come on, you can't give up on this. You're like the podcast, you're like the new podcast producer in this town. You got to do this. This is your career. So
who else had she been podcasting for? Like, what made her so? Like,
she was just good. She was great. Everybody wanted. She was like Earwolf wanted to poach her. But she's a chick. She's a producer. She's attractive. She's funny. Like it's like all the things you would want. Like it hits all the boxes of like normally there's a bunch of overweight white guys who produce podcasts. Nobody wants them.
Yeah,
that's how it is.
Yeah,
they want somebody who's unique and who can do this. And she also had the talent. She was better than Donnie. She was better than anybody at the network. She was better than Logan. She was the best producer at the network. So I'm like, come on, you got to do something. And I always butt in and try to like help and do things. People get mad at me. So I told Adam what happened, not like the tattletale. I was like, hey, Ace Man, what if you called Chris Hardwick and Nerdist? You think you do anything? So I'll do it right now. Calls Nerdist. Nerdist hires Katie. She works there, I think, for over 10 years, and now she currently still works with him. She bought a house, got a career, life, dog, boyfriend of 10 years. After she gets the call, she calls me up, tells me what a piece of shit I am, how much she hates me, how I butt in her life. I should never have said anything or done anything. And she can do her own deals, blah, blah, blah. People always do that to me. And just kind of goes off on me and never talked since. Then she went on the After Disaster about a month later.
Oh, really?
She started ranting while drunk about like random people she doesn't like. She goes, and I know when you shit your pants, dude, so why don't you watch your mouth?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't even know that happened. I just heard that After Disaster like a month or two ago. I never even knew that aired. And I was like, oh, now I'm sad a decade later. And all I did was just try to step in to help out because she was treated so unfairly. But like, you can't, people don't want you to do that. But it did lead to like her working there. Maybe she would have thought of like to ask Adam herself, but nobody ever does that. I don't know, man. So that's what happened with Katie. That's who that was. And so anyways, back to the 2011. Dude had never been paid $1. The illegal contract they won't sign because they won't be paid till they sign the contract. It takes full ownership. The Film Vault leaves Ace Broadcasting. Logan was also leaving for other reasons we can't get into, but he just wasn't going to work there anymore. And they were siding with their producer, being loyal to him as well. So it was like we already weren't going to sign this contract. We didn't know how to get out of this, and Logan's leaving, so we're going to leave with him. So we saw sign of solidarity. They leave with him, even though it was much more than that.
So, contract proposed by Donnie and Sam with trying to illegally hijack.
Yeah, they want over 50% owner. They want full ownership, over 50% of the money. They didn't pay him for any of those episodes. They made a ton of cash. Anderson always argues about why they had to be listed as comedy. Mike Chaffee did that as a strategic move. Back in the day, nobody was going in the other categories of iTunes podcasting, only comedy. Even Joe Rogan's podcast, he's a comedian. His show isn't funny. It's never been funny. It's just not. It's not even being an insult. He just doesn't want. Like, people tell jokes. He yells at people for telling jokes and makes those wah 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 if they tell a joke on his show. Like literally, that's the thing. All the comedians talk about it. It can be funny when he thinks things are funny. When he's saying that the movie theater he was in was like Planet of the Apes because it was all African American viewers. I remember hearing that live and going, "Yeah, that's gonna come back to haunt you in 10 years, buddy."
One day, yeah.
But I mean, like that's just everything was in comedy podcast categories. So they put the Film Vault there. And instead of having a couple hundred or 1,000 listeners like everything else in TV and film, 40,000 listeners immediately. So they got a ton of people hearing them, and there was lots of opinions and lots of carryover of like, oh, this is that asshole Anderson Adam hates. Well, I hate you too, bro, because I love the Ace Man. Yeah. Unaware that none of that's true. Or people like Bryan should have died of cancer. Like that still happens to this day.
Oh my God.
Fuck brutal.
Fuck those people.
That's where the Frank comes from and all those fake names they use. Is all those Frank, iTunes reviews for people who were saying things about the show. Like they're still like that still haunts Bryan Anderson to this day. Yeah. So 2011, Film Vault continues on as an independent podcast as we know it today that showed extreme character and loyalty to keep the producer and continue the continuity of the listening experience for us fans. And eventually Logan left because money things with Anderson not having any more gigs, and then Anderson being able to do those jobs, even though it's a small amount of money. I think he had a percentage. I'm not.
Well, he went to Sony too. He got
more work and more jobs,
yeah,
and he had more time commitments, and so there's less time they could all meet up and record. So it was kind of win-win-win. And then also I think they were getting like that thing of familiarity breeding contempt. Like, you've been on the Film Vault 10 years, it's only getting this big, it's never going to get bigger than this.
Yeah.
What is this? It's kind of an albatross if you're trying to start a career. So now when they're on,
sorry,
I agree. Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. But now when they're on air together, it's so magical. It's like, now I want more Logan. Like, I love.
Logan. Yeah, Logan was great. He was great. I love Avery. I didn't.
Oh, nope. I don't want Avery gone. Avery's the best.
Yeah, at first I was kind of like, but also when anything new happens, it's no, I can't think of the word, but it's a stepping stone, right? You got to go through, and especially with a show we've had Logan for 10 years, and then all of a sudden there's this new guy. You're kind of like, no thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think Logan was like 9 years or 8.5. But everything I think was a little bit too with the fans. Like Anderson and Bryan do that as well. Like, if they're mean to the guy, then the fans will defend him. That kind of thing. I just wasn't playing. I like Avery, even when he says something I disagree with. I still like him. So he's really talented. He's a fully formed stand-up comedian as well. I always want to compliment him, but I don't want to insult him. If you look at his stage presence, he has perfect stage presence. It's one of the hardest things to do in stand-up.
Yeah.
His writing, every time I see him, is better and better, and that's the thing that evolves over time. So like having stage presence is like that's the hardest part of the fight. Like he's already there. So he's gonna blow up as a comedian. They better latch on to this guy or get as much as they can out of him before he's gone.
Oh, that'd be awesome. He's great. And I can tell his humor is just really smart, and you can he doesn't talk a ton on TFE, but like you can tell that
he can blow your mind with a sentence or make you laugh with a sentence. His reaction on the TFE bonus episode when Anderson's reading the list of the victims in Barbarian, and then he says Asian bitch, which is Asian dash bitch, by the way. So I don't think it was about her race. Like he was saying, she's an Asian woman and she happens to also be bitchy.
Yeah,
just for record sake. The guy might not have been a racist that way. But when he read
probably was.
Yeah, he definitely was. He was a very, very bad man. He's everything. He's horrible.
Yeah.
And then Avery just started laughing uncontrollably. Somebody on a post on Patreon, like top 10 or top 5 TFE moments. It was, and like nobody knows that happened unless you're a patron. I was begging Anderson to release it. It's such a great tease to get you on Patreon too. Like, here's what we do over there. Check out the spoiler episode.
And hopefully they're filming those, because then we can use those on TikTok, and some of those funny things can reel people in. But
yeah, video component is necessary nowadays to reel anybody in for a podcast. The only way a podcast can blow up is with video. Basically, Rogan took over the model and then abandoned it, and now everybody's trying to fill that gap outside of Spotify.
Which I thought YouTube was dead. Like I thought YouTube was on.
Oh, I did too. I thought YouTube was dead before YouTube was alive. I was denigrating YouTube in 2008. I was like, fucking YouTube, these dorks on YouTube. I've never watched YouTube. My life depended on it. I watch YouTube more than anything.
For me, it's like the last few years, it's just been like, YouTube is still growing and growing.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
hugely. Dude, I watch YouTube more than any other TV show.
Really? I don't. I like never watch YouTube. And
I never did. It took over my life.
Nieces and nephews and like younger friends, like, what are you watching? Oh, just YouTube. And they watch their influencers they love, and I'm like, God, I must be old, because I either want to watch a movie or a TV show. I don't need to watch what other people are doing. I don't give a fuck.
I'm somewhere in between now, because I've really burnt out on other people's opinions, especially when it comes to MCU stuff, just because people are not that educated about it. And then also I have this complex where my entire life I've never been able to have or do anything. And it's all a series of circumstantial things, and it's not reality. Mm-hmm. But drowning and dying as an infant, being run over as a kid, being left for dead, all the ways that I've just kind of been essentially my entire life I've been made to feel like, oh, dude, your mom was rendered infertile in a drunk driving accident on her way to the last month of deep sea diver school, and her best friend was killed in her lap and his tooth went in her skull, and she could never menstruate again. And the doctors told her she couldn't menstruate or what's the other word I'm looking for?
Have a child? Birth?
No. The other term, during the cycle, during the month when it's time when you're fertile.
Ovulate.
As a word I know, and I can't think of it at the time. I don't know what's going on wrong with me.
Ovulate?
Yep, ovulate. There you go. She couldn't menstruate or ovulate.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctors told her that. And so she went on for years, like having living boyfriends, being an adult woman. And then she met my father, who asked her for her French fries at some random place. They went on one date. It was the worst 8 minutes of her life. She's told me many, many times. And he was a virgin, and she was infertile. And then 7 months later, she's gigantic, and they've told her it's a ball of mucus, a parasite, blah, blah, blah. They finally check it. Oh, you're pregnant. That's impossible.
Do people, you should get that engraved when you die 100 years from now. Giovanni.
Reverse Jesus.
Ball of mucus.
Or parasite or something, bitch.
Parasite, ball of mucus.
It ended up with my mom my dad didn't even show up. He showed up to watch an episode of Kung Fu in the delivery room, which I found out was in reruns at the time. It had been 6 years since it actually aired. So he'd probably already seen this episode of Kung Fu. At the very least, it was not important to watch rather than the birth of your son or hang out with your son. He just showed up at the end. And then my mom had to drive herself home from a C-section with a naked baby hanging off her breast in a pickup truck with no seatbelt. Yeah, it's my life. I've just had this whole thing my whole life of I'm not allowed to have anything or do anything. And so the whole idea of people like denigrating Marvel movies, like the biggest thing in the world is MCU movies. And even that, people are like, let's just get rid of those.
We'll definitely get into that in the next episode. But
I know. So that's why I've been cutting back on YouTube content, because everyone's opinion now, even if it's not talking about Marvel, I'm watching a tech show about level 1 techs talking about how to do like data entry and like IT support. And they're like, these Marvel movies are terrible. I'm like,
shut the fuck up. I know.
You know what I'm talking about.
I'm right there with you. Trust me. Yeah. Wow. I almost want to dive deep into some of your upbringing, but like,
there's an entire episode of the Dr. Drew podcast, episode 37. I'll link you. And if it's not posted, I'll put it in the file.
Okay.
It's still up. It's my entire backstory compressed. I shared it on air, and everybody just makes fun of me for being run over as a little kid now.
Oh my
which
gosh.
I would never do to anybody.
I just got to say, I'm really sorry to hear that, but you have obviously grown, and your memory is
I'm fine
amazing.
with it. I interviewed my dad and my mom to prove it, and I asked my mom. I was like, "Hey, people online don't believe I was run over by cars."
So you have a good relationship with your dad?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
He's like a guy. I've met him 24 times. It's a funny story about my dad. He's a film director.
Oh.
He abandoned me so he could direct films. He didn't want a kid. They accused my mom of baby trapping him, even though it's impossible. She had no idea. So they wouldn't acknowledge my existence, wouldn't pay child support, wouldn't do anything. He went to the Cannes Film Festival every year of my life. He only had a movie 2 years. He went over 30 times.
Good movies, or what are we?
No, one of them was Wild Child, which is basically a ripoff of like The Babysitter or those kind of movies, like Crush, that kind of thing. Teenage girl obsessed.
What year?
Cheaply made. Then there was this is in like 90, and then there's another one before that that's like it's not Bad Touch, there's another movie that has like Bad Something, it's like that, it's also a ripoff. And then he made one called Good Teeth in 2005, super low budget. It's basically the slave trade never ended, and people still trade slaves.
Oh.
Great script, no budget, and it was shot 4:3, so it does not look like a movie.
Oh no, that's not good.
I know, I told him why'd you waste your time. Anyway, so I met the dude like 24 times, maybe less. Every time we hang out, we go see a movie. He's never sat through a single movie in its entirety, including Bad Moon, 1996 werewolf movie, Mariel Hemingway. I think it's 79 minutes, 78 minutes. It's barely a movie with credits. He walked out of that. It's a great movie. It's Mason Gamble, the kid played Dennis the Menace, like 13 years old, fighting his werewolf uncle. And there's a dog in it. Oh, dude, I have to say this. There's a dog in it named Primo, and he's playing Thor. This is based off a book called Thor. The book is from the dog's POV of Doberman about his owner's brother coming back who's a werewolf and him having to protect the family. And the book's written from the dog's POV. And they can't do the movie that way, but the dog's a character, and this dog called Primo played him, just one dog. He's the best dog actor I've ever seen in my fucking life. He has reactions with his teeth. He'll like pull his teeth back and what? Say what?
That's
he's suspecting this man of being a werewolf. And he's like investigating his trailer and stuff. And he's like watching him. I can't. You have to watch a movie. It's crazy. But
why did your dad walk out? Why couldn't he finish a movie?
I used to think he had a coke problem. I actually addressed it with my mom, and then she brought up, and he just doesn't like movies that much. He doesn't like anything. And then it was before cell phones, so he wasn't even calling his live-in girlfriend. She's a paralyzed, his common law wife, I guess, of like 30 years. Oh, wow. And he calls her all the time, and like he's on a leash like Drew is, so it's partly that. But before that, it wasn't that. Long Kiss Goodnight, he walked out of. Long Kiss Goodnight, bro.
Long Kiss Goodnight. Come on. So are they both still alive, your mom and your
First
dad?
Wives Club. He walked out of First Wives Club.
Oh.
Granted, that may have gave some weird feelings, but still, he didn't date my mom. He wasn't married to her. What the fuck?
No, yeah, true. Are they both still alive, your parents?
Yeah, they're both alive. He's in Portland. He's still trying. He thinks one day he's going to get a hit movie. And then recently he revealed to me his plan was to go to Cannes and like be Harvey Weinstein, like buy and sell films and just be like a player. Like if an idiot like that can do it, why can't I? And I can't even begin to explain him why that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And he wasted his life and he's a fucking moron. And if he wanted to be a film director, I could have shown him how. And I myself wanted to be a director, but I completely ditched the ambition or idea because I didn't want to be anything like him.
Oh wow, yeah, no, that can have its effects.
Yeah, so I just decided I don't want to be anything like that person, so I will just enjoy the things I love. I don't need to make them.
Yeah. I have two more things to ask you before we we end this show and then we move over to the superhero movies, if you're still good with that.
Oh, I'm still good. If you're still good, buddy. This is my favorite thing in the world. I love this. I feel like I'm downloading all the things that people need to know. I feel like there's like two people in the chat when we do those live watch-alongs where they say, Gio, like they'll go, ugh. And like I won't ever comment on it, but like it hurts my feelings. And I think they think I'm like a self-aggrandizing person who wants to be famous. They don't know this. I asked Bryan and Anderson to stop thanking me because I didn't want those people to have to hear my name because it makes me feel bad. I know Bryan and Anderson like me. I don't need to hear him thank me. And I much prefer if I come up organically, like in the email thing, or Gio Johnny stuff or something. It's funner. Like I don't care if I come up at all, but I'd rather just not mention me. Mention another fan who does stuff, at the end, who's like cool. Like that's how I got to know you. I didn't know you. I just kept hearing Mitch Burns all the time.
Yeah.
And then I saw your post on Facebook about like, why does Anderson talk about super movies and hate him? Why does he not talk about them at all? And I misinterpret it.
Sometimes I get angry.
No, you're right. But I misinterpret. I'm so sensitive. I'm like, this motherfucker doesn't want Andrew to talk about superhero movies. It's all I got. But it's because you love them so much, like I do. So then I wrote to Anderson Bryan, like, who's this Mitch Burns guy? Or
you
Mitch
literally
Kearns?
asked them? Oh my god!
Yeah, this Mitch Kearns guy trying to tell you not to watch movies anymore. And they're like, oh no, Mitch is this. And then you wrote to me immediately for no reason. I think I just commented something, but it was nice. And you were the nicest man in the world.
I always respond.
And then I wrote back to Anderson Bryan. I go, oh, cancel the bit. I wanted to do a bit where I was going after Mitch Kearns and I was mean to Mitch. And I was going to like call him names and be rude and be like, I hate Mitch. And then I was like, he's the nicest dude in the world. I love Mitch. I love Mitch. Cancel the bit. I don't want to do the bit. It's not funny.
It's actually funny because I literally just emailed them about 2 weeks ago and said, hey, you guys like now that I'm doing the listener list and this, I'm like, just stop bringing up my name. Don't bring it up just don't bring it up anymore. I don't need all the praise. Like, thank you, but I enjoy doing it. And
we're the same dude, Mitch.
Avery emailed me. He's like, fuck that. I'm gonna bring it up more now. And I'm like, okay.
I also grab dudes' cocks at movie theaters. I mean, what?
Yeah. We're the same guy. And then so the other question I have, and this is just me being dumb because I don't listen to the After Disaster. I have never listened to an episode, which is
you can jump in any time if you want to.
Yeah, I will.
It's just a conversation. There's no continuity. Avery comes from the After Disaster. He was a fan, and he came on the Blacker Disaster, which they still talk about, but they talk about in a way like it's kind of like pathetic white guy. Like we had these 3 black guys on. It was like a really great. It's like it's a fine episode, but like you guys didn't solve the world's problems. Like it's just an episode of the After Disaster. Like you're not heroes for having 3 black fans on. Like
so
like, it's a weird
you love the After Disaster too, right?
Oh yeah, it's a great show.
Okay,
it's a perfect podcast.
Okay, and was Dr. Drew ever a part of it, or still?
He would make cameos because they record after Loveline. So if he wasn't out of the building, you give him for a couple seconds. They'd also get callers who were calling in. They'd play him. They weren't allowed to do that. It quickly became like, oh, you guys can't be doing this here anymore. You have to take it away from Loveline. So it's still the After Disaster, but it quickly had nothing to do with Loveline.
Okay, and are Anderson Bryan or Anderson at the most? Is he still friends with Dr. Drew, or is that tailed off?
As we talked about in the bonus episode, they haven't really spoken since Drew bailed on the premiere.
Okay.
Anderson was hurt by that.
Right.
He was really overwhelmed by Adam watching the movie and then telling him only Anderson could make it. Which also, I got Anderson booked. I wrote to Adam like, hey man, us Loveline fans never get anything. You've had Anderson on a few times. He's been on the ACS a few times. One time Donnie ruined it because he couldn't tell Adam if they were doing an episode of the Film Vault and Adam was the guest, or if they're doing an episode of the ACS and they were the guests. So literally there's a 40-minute episode from right in the Orange Couch days where Adam screamed at Donnie, what show am I on? And Anderson's like, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the episode just went down the tubes. It was nothing. It was like 40 minutes long. It was an abortion. They still aired it as an ACS episode.
Wow.
And then he was on again, and it was a more standard episode, pretty good, but it was still like 2011 Anderson and Adams vibe.
Yeah.
So it flowed okay. But when he came back on 2020,
Yeah.
wow. Like he did the Adam and Drew show. I got him on there, and that was pretty good. But then when he came
Yeah.
on the ACS in 2020, right before COVID blew up, that changed Anderson's life and his whole dynamic with Adam. I completely changed their entire
That's
journey.
amazing. Yeah.
I feel like I went over there, I slapped that timeline, and it fucking went a different direction.
Yeah. No, I don't love Corolla, but I am really glad that happened. And for Anderson, for Bryan, for Corolla, it just
all of us fans. It's
exactly.
like the most healing thing possible. Like they took away all like Anderson's like stuff of, oh, I was a bad guy, you should have fired me. And
yes.
Adam doesn't give a shit about any of that. And I tell him every time he says something nice about him, Adam doesn't even reply. I was like, hey, man, Anderson was saying what a great guy you are.
Because Anderson likes to joke, but these things do get to him.
Oh yeah, no, they do. He hasn't talked to Drew since he didn't go to the premiere, and he forbid me from telling Drew that, so I'm not going to. But I happened to tell it to Andrew or Chris, and Andrew and Chris got sad, and he goes, "Well, I can tell Drew," and I go, "I guess I can't stop you. I guess that's true."
Yeah. But Bryan still has a connection with Dr. Drew?
No, I have Drew. No. Drew got him fired, even though he didn't really, but that happened. And then when he was diagnosed, Adam told Drew, and Drew goes, 6 months, huh? And he goes, yeah, that's probably right. I tell him, prepare, get ready. Start digging a grave. Give him a shovel, Adam. Tell his wife to dig it while he wants.
Fuck.
He wasn't that mean, but he was basically.
Yeah, no. But when you knew someone and you decide to not reach out.
He's just Drew, though. He's honest. It's his bedside manner. He's not going to lie to you.
Yeah. And I don't know much about
Dude,
the guy,
you got rebar in your asshole. You're going to die. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we were talking, I just kind of looked at one thing here. This month is also the 3-year anniversary of when I started on the show doing all my stuff. So
very cool.
Yeah, just to bring it up and bring it full circle. So 3 years. Sorry, did I say 3 months?
I don't know, but yeah, it's 3 years. I feel like I've been hearing about you much longer. Anderson was probably name dropping you before that.
Yeah, I was always. Do you want to hear something crazy? Do you remember? I don't know if you remember, but there was a long time ago where they read someone who reviewed them, not Bill's Emporium, but someone else.
Yeah.
Who reviewed them, and they gave them a really nice review, and they read it on air. I vaguely
remember this.
That was me.
So this is 2012?
Yeah, 2012. I'd started listening, 2011, whatever. And I had a blog like the Hollywood Persona when it was first starting.
I remember the Hollywood Persona. I remember this.
So
and the reviews from the Hollywood Persona.
Yeah, I still had the review, and that's the first time I was mentioned. And this was 2011, over 10 years ago. Like, so. And so
I had no idea like who you were, how you're connected to it. And none of the Film Vault fans, I think we do know each other. There's so many people listening to the show. I have no idea. John Cho was listening for a while. I don't know if he still does.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
You'd be surprised. People listen to a lot of shows. They just don't tell you. Like, why am I going to tell you that I'm your celebrity listener? I don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when they find out that like their little movie has been brought up, they'll slip in. Like I reviewed a movie this year called What Josiah Saw, a horror movie that I really loved. The director followed me on Letterboxd and followed me on Instagram because he liked my reviews so much. And I was like,
I'm gonna go write one on Letterboxd and say if the director doesn't follow me, I'm gonna kill myself.
Oh my god, I don't even know the director's name right now, but I've seen all his movies. He makes really good movies, but they're really dark and depressing, and that's my kind of thing.
I like it. I'm right there with you, buddy. That's my kind of thing too.
Okay, everyone. So thank you for listening to the Film Vaulters. I'm going to post this on Monday, which will be the 5th. So you'll be listening to this on the 5th. And then on Friday, I will be posting our top 5 superhero movies. Gio, obviously, we need to hear his take on the top 5 superhero movies. I'm really excited.
I'm going to cheat.
You're going to cheat?
Oh, I'm going to cheat.
Oh, there can't be TV shows.
Not that way.
Okay. So I'm Mitch Burns. You can find me at the Hollywood Persona on Facebook. If you go to my Instagram, I have all my links in the bio there. It's at the Hollywood Persona. We also I have my own podcast, which is the Hollywood Persona. I will stop saying that, but you can find me everywhere. Gio, where can people find you if they wanted to listen to your podcast or follow you?
Just type GIO for a while. You'll eventually find me. It's in my name like 3 times. Just go to, I guess the simplest way is superfangiovanni.com. That's my website. It's got all links to everything.
To your
If you want to listen to any of the
podcast.
shows I do, or any of the Loveline or Restore, or anything else I do, it's all found there. And if you want to
Okay.
find me on Instagram, Giovanni Giorgio, hit me up. I'll help you out. Find clips. I'll explain something to you, or
That's
tell you
exciting.
why
Yeah.
Anderson said that mean thing about me 10 years ago, and now we're best friends, and it's all water under the bridge. It had to evolve as it had to evolve.
It's amazing. I love it.
Oh, by the way,
I
Bitch
love
Kearns, is that my fault?
Maybe. They call me.
I sent it to Bryan and Anderson after your Facebook post about Anderson not watching superhero movies, and Avery says it all the time now. He was not in the email chain. They would have had to say it to Avery.
Bitch Mearns? Yeah.
I think I did Kearns. I think I did a K.
Oh, well, I know Avery has changed it now to Bitch Mearns.
Okay.
And that's what
So maybe
he
it's not my
says.
fault. Maybe he's just
I don't know.
converting the two.
And I like that. I'd rather that. The thing that bothers me is the Mitch Burns, because I had drunkenly sent the fanflictions in one night, and I just so I'm sending this email, and at the end I'm like, signed the in capitals Mitch Burns. And then
You're gonna still hold this against me for 40 years?
Oh my god. Yeah, exactly. Now it's been.
It's not bad though. Engineer Chris, who is Logan's cousin, who came onto the Corolla show. I think his cousin. Yeah, no, he's not his cousin. He's his friend. Cousin. One of the two. They're both Asian dudes who know each other through nepotism. He came onto the Corolla show. He's the current Corolla producer. He stuck around. His name's Chris Loxamana. Adam couldn't remember his last name at the beginning, so he calls him Chris Maxapata. Chris does not understand. He's like, but why? Chris is not. He's like, give me any nickname. Why Maxapata?
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you Friday. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. Okay, Gio, so are you okay if I end this and send you another invite so that this one starts downloading?
Yeah, let me stop this guy over here on my end so I stop recording.
Okay, because I just wanna make sure it
it gets everything. So we commit what we got, we don't lose what we got.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to make sure it's there before we start. I keep going, and then it's at 3 hours, right? So
exactly, I'm right there with you.
Okay,
save this
and if you can't do it, we can do the superhero part another day, unless you're.
Oh, I'm totally good. If you're not good,
okay,
you're good.
I'm great.
You're not taking my time.
No,
I'll
I'm
talk to
great.
you until I die.
Okay, perfect. We will.
I'm stuck in my office all night, and I finished all my work, so I have nothing to do.
Stuck in your office? Why?
I've been doing 15-hour days since November. I worked technically I can only work 494 hours legally, 16 hours per day. In January, and there was 744 hours, but I also have my vacation, so I worked through my vacation. Oh. So I technically worked 545 hours of 744 hours in a month.
So I get what you mean by chained to your desk. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I can't go anywhere till the shift's over, but all my work's done.
Okay.
So technically, don't tell anybody I'm being paid.
Am I gonna get you fired?
No.
Okay.
I can't get in trouble. We have to do so much work per day, but I can't exceed too much. So like my fellow workers can do 4 cases per hour at most. That's what they have to average, and I can do 40. So if I go full speed, I take all the work and nobody can get work done. But because of seniority, they can't fire me. So they just ask me to go on a balanced pace because I'm so much better at emails than my peers who are old.
Okay, I'm going to end this. I'm going to take a piss, grab another beer, and I will just send you a new invite, okay?
Sweet. Recording saved on my side, ready to go when you're back.
Okay, thank you, Gio.
Thank you.
BRB.